in my mind, like, I promised God.
Right. Right.
And so that really had an effect. And then all growing up, like I said, I always was trying to go to more church events and Bible studies and everything, and go to church groups at school and stuff. And I remember growing up, I'd always trying to egg my dad to, let's go to study, let's go to men's study, let's go to the retreats, let's go to all this.
Oh, nice.
They're like, come on, we're going to be late for church. I was always the one,
Yeah.
to trying to push everyone, let's go.
Now, do you think that was because of like an inner push from the Lord, or do you feel like it was more of kind of that, like, well, I'm a Christian, I need to be doing these things more like
It's funny, a lot of my Hispanic friends, I guess, we joke about the most racist people we've experienced against Hispanics are other Hispanics. I mean,
right.
I mean, the stories of my great grandpa and stuff. Like,
yeah.
You just say things like demeaning about, the quote unquote lesser Hispanics.
Right.
Because they're different. There have been a few times where I've had something like that where I have to check a box or something, and it'll just be funny. I'll check black or I'll check white. Black or white.
Check both.
They got this list of things. Then they got Latino, Hispanic, Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm like,
like, what is Have you ever seen the ones that it'll say Hispanic/white?
Yeah, and I'm like,
what the heck does that mean?
I'm like, huh? But I guess, like, it doesn't even really make sense, because it's gotten to a point in the world, I mean, sure, way back when, lands are still being conquered and the colonizing and all that. It's like, sure, Spain may have been primarily white, but nowadays, like all countries, there's a mix of diversity in these countries.
What's up, everyone? I'm so excited that you decided to listen to this episode, because as always, it's a good one. My guest today is James Martinez. I first met James when he was like 14 years old, when my son was invited to his birthday party. But it wasn't until pretty recently that I got to know him better, because he is now dating one of my favorite people, which means that he hangs out with us more. James always seemed like somewhat of a quiet guy to me in the years that I would see him from afar, but as I got to know him better, I found out that that wasn't true. One evening in my living room, when I happened to be in a serious discussion with one of my adult children about some very serious topics, which is somewhat the norm at my house, James was one of the innocent bystanders. But at some point in the discussion, he decided to offer his own views and thoughts, and I was very impressed with his knowledge and ability to defend his viewpoints. James is a good dude, and I really enjoyed talking with him. Enjoy the conversation.
Never talked to him. I don't know who he is really. I mean, I know he goes to our church, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
And we saw each other.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, doing good.
Right.
Like, cool. See you Sunday. I'm like, see you Sunday.
And then it's like awkward. It's like, what do we talk about,
Yeah, and I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna keep going and get what I was getting.
I always say that quote from, I don't know if you ever saw Dumb and Dumber.
Yes, I did.
Where he goes out and the guys are there and he goes, hey, big gulps, huh? Well, see you later. It's just like, oh man,
what do you do?
Yeah, it's like, how awkward is that, But that's what I feel like, especially because now that we're at Calvary, it's a bigger congregation than we've been at before. I mean, the last few we've been to before that have been smaller. So there's all these people that I know by face. I mean, especially because we have the announcements and we see all these people on the screen. It's like, oh, I know them because they go, but I've never talked to them ever. But then I'll bump into them somewhere and we both look at each other. It's like, and we just kind of do that. Like, hey, how's it going? Oh, pretty good. All right, man. We'll see ya.
Or sometimes it'll be people like I know I should know, but like I don't really talk to them. Like my parents talk to them or something.
Okay.
And they know so much about me, but I know nothing about them. And they're asking me things. I'm like, yeah. Doesn't that make you feel kind of weird? It's like, how do you know all these things about me? Yeah, and then they'll say things like, oh, how's your mom doing? I'm like, she's doing good.
You should throw them off and say, I do not have a mom. What are you talking about?
She died 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Who have you been seeing and talking to? I mean, this is like a weird ghost movie or something, Oh man, too funny.
Well, the chai is good.
Good.
And you didn't know I was lactose?
Dude, that's the reason I text you, because I don't usually text people and ask that, because I put it in the email, but I don't usually text people and ask that. But then as I started to make it, I was like, was that him that one time said something about having but you said you can eat cheese, right?
I can eat cheese, ice cream.
Okay, it's just straight milk.
Yogurt, if I eat too much of it, then it's
okay.
But straight, I've never in my life drinking just straight milk. I've never wanted to just get a glass of milk.
Oh no, huh?
No, it always tasted I don't like it.
You don't like the taste of milk?
Yeah.
What about like cereal? Do you eat cereal?
I eat it with cereal. I didn't grow up eating it with cereal, but I never drank the milk that was in the bowl.
Okay. Even like when you have a sugary cereal and you get that I
would take a few sips, but I'm like, I really don't want it. And then usually one of my brothers would be like, I want it. And in my head, I'm like, that's kind of weird that you drink my milk.
Well, I would agree on that.
But, they'd like, yeah, but it's like sugary, like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because if you get some good milk that's been soaking in like Cocoa Puffs or Fruit Loops or something, they should bottle that stuff and sell it at the stores. That's the good stuff. I love that.
I mean, I have a few sips in, but then I just start tasting just the milk taste.
Oh, okay.
But I had cousins that used to have those little straws that you drink through them and it flavors the milk or something.
Oh, yeah. Asher likes those. It's like chocolate or strawberry or something. Yeah.
And you can eat them and stuff, too.
Okay.
Those were good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, I'm like, I can't do it. And I wasn't really lactose intolerant for most of my life. I mean, as a baby, I guess my mom said I was. But I couldn't even have regular breast milk or anything.
Oh, really?
Formula and stuff.
Interesting.
But then most of my life, I never encountered the problem, probably because I didn't just drink it.
Right.
And then it's like around the time I'm dating Jordan, we'd go to coffee shops all the time. And I remember there was just a lot time. They're like, oh, what kind of milk? I'm like, yeah, 2% is fine as long as it's not whole milk. I don't want to risk it with that.
Right.
And then my stomach was in such pain after that. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I tried 1% milk another time, still really hurt.
Okay. What about that water milk, like the skim milk? Does that still do it for you?
I never tried it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in trying it. You might as well just put water.
Just put almond milk or oat milk. I heard can be better than milk, but it's high in what's it called?
Carbs and
stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good alternative. It's not a good alternative for people trying to lose weight because it's still carby. But if you're lactose, it's a good alternative. Yeah. Like I know people that use that because they're lactose and it's good on their cereal or in their coffee or whatever. Jordan
was trying different milks because she's also a little lactose intolerant.
Oh yeah.
She tried I think pretty much all of them almost.
Okay.
I think her last one before this one she's on now that I think we're good with. She was trying oat milk, but I'm like, I don't know if that one's a good long term.
Yeah.
But I realized Nathaniel, so all this time, I think I told you before, he's like, no, I'm not lactose intolerant at all. And then find out he's drinking lactose-free milk. Oh. But he swears, though, that his parents have regular milk. But I'm like, but you have been going out and buying this.
Right. Why would he do that? Did he not realize that it's...
He just really liked it. It was cheap, and it's a small quantity, and it lasts a long time.
Yeah.
It's ultra-filtered or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like Lactaid, that stuff's good. I like it.
It's Fairlife.
Okay. But it's almost sweet. It's sweeter to me than regular milk.
The lactose-free?
Yeah, when I've had it.
Could be. I don't know. Like I said, I don't straight drink it.
I mean, I don't buy it or anything, but my mom used to get it, when I was, and she still does sometimes. But yeah, I would try it and it's because I'm always leery about anything like that because this is not natural, right? Like God put lactose in the milk.
Well, I heard raw milk isn't that bad for people who are lactose intolerant. So I hear, but I'm like, I don't know.
Interesting. So then that gets into maybe the processed,
more expensive, too,
well,
a little
of course
bit,
it is,
and all that. But they said because raw milk hasn't been boiled or anything, it's not been denatured.
It's not pasteurized and all that. So you could just get salmonella and die. But other than that, you're good.
Yeah.
It's just the risk you're gonna have to take, I guess.
Yeah. But I got Fairlife and I tried it. I'm like, oh, this is good. It doesn't hurt me at all. And then I suggested it to Jordan. It'd been a couple of days before I realized. I'm like, oh, wait, she's looking for something too.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is really good. It's cheap. It lasted a long time because her oat milk lasted maybe a week.
Okay.
And then no good. And she got a small little box.
Oh, it went bad?
I guess it was going bad, or Denise already threw it out because it was past its expiration.
Oh, see me with expirations, I'm like... That doesn't scare me. If it's got mold on it or with milk, if it smells bad, no. But it could be
with dairy.
No, huh? Even if it's past the date, but it smells fine, tastes fine, you won't touch it.
I won't smell it or taste it.
You won't even go that far. You just go past the date, pour it down. When it comes to
dairy, if it's gone bad, that can make me pretty.
What about ice cream? What if ice cream's past the date?
Well, if it's in the freezer, it's in the freezer.
Yeah, see,
it's frozen.
But if it's past the date, I would still eat it.
I probably would. I mean, it'd probably be freezer burn. I've done that before.
Yeah.
we have ice cream buried in the bottom of our freezer at home when we were kids.
Yeah.
Because we weren't allowed to have ice cream all the time. And then
Right.
eventually we end up forgetting it's there, and everyone forgets.
Yeah.
And then I'm out there in the freezer, I'm like, oh, look, it's ice cream. I bring it into the house, I'd try to eat some. It's like freezer burn on the surface. So I have to get through that.
You just scrape it off, man. You know?
Well, I would try to eat a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just really icy.
Yeah. It just kind of
covered.
ruins the flavor a little bit, but I don't think it'll hurt you at all. But
Yeah.
I've been known to like, I mean, even if there's mold on something, I'll just pull that part off of there. Like bread. If I got a piece of bread and there's like the top right corner is like green, I'll just cut that part off and still eat the rest.
I heard that with soft foods, it's not good to do that because
really?
it could really like permeate into the rest of it.
Even if you can't see it?
Yeah.
Like it invisibly permeates?
Like it's spores and stuff are
Okay.
really in it. But
Wow.
if I'm in a real pinch, I guess I'll, like with bread or something, just cut it off. But
if you're living on the street, eating out of dumpsters. Like,
well, I mean, if I ever get there,
hopefully it'll never come to that. But, if it does, you just know that you can eat, I think mold, even like that kind of mold, I mean, that's what they make like penicillin out of and stuff.
I think. But
So, I mean, I don't think it'll hurt you, but it's
I don't just eat
not
penicillin
good.
and stuff.
No, unless you got an infection or something, right? But
Yeah. But now I put my bread in the fridge because apparently that keeps the mold from growing. It'll still go stale, get old.
Yeah.
So I learned that.
It'll last longer, I think, if you keep it in the fridge. But how about butter? Since we're on the topic, do you put it in the fridge or outside the fridge?
So I always assumed everyone put it in the fridge until I house sat for the Yamamoto.
I did too, because my whole life it was always in the fridge. But then you try to spread that stuff, it's like impossible.
But I'm like, as long as the toast is hot enough, it's gonna.
True, it'll melt on
Or
there.
if you're putting it into something,
Yeah.
it'll melt in there. But I went to the Yamamoto's. They have a little glass bowl on the counter. I'm like, is that butter?
Yeah.
And then I text Jade. I'm like, did you guys leave this out? And she's like, we keep the butter in a bowl on the counter.
Yeah,
I'm like,
she's like, you weirdo.
I'm like, why? And she's like, we like our butter to be soft. I'm like,
Right.
huh. And at my apartment now, so when I went and bought all that butter, because at Costco we buy a bunch,
Oh yeah.
I put one bar into their stick into the fridge, and the rest I put into the freezer.
Okay.
So it's not going to go bad or anything. And Nathaniel, who comes to the house, and he's like, oh, we don't have any more butter. I'm like, oh, there's more sticks in the freezer. He's like, why are they in the freezer?
In the freezer.
Well, we're not going to be like inhaling butter or like need to eat it all right
On
now.
a good day, maybe. I mean,
Like you just take it out the night before we put it out. He's like, well, I want butter now. Like, for what? He's like, to cook something in the pan. I'm like, I have olive oil.
Yeah.
He's a real big butter guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess depending on what you're cooking. If I'm sautéing mushrooms and garlic, gotta be butter. Olive oil, not.
If it's like a garlic kind of thing, I
Yeah.
guess, butter. But most of the time, I'm fine with just using olive oil.
Okay.
Like cooking salmon in a pan, olive oil.
Yeah,
I think he prefers butter.
Yeah.
I mean,
If I'm cooking meat, I could see salmon or fish. I mean, I could see like using butter, like with fish or something.
Mm-hmm.
At work, my favorite pizza sauce is just olive oil. Nothing else. Like nothing
brushed on it.
Yeah, just kind of. I'll just pour it on the crust and then kind of rub it around all over it, and I'll put my toppings on, and then put the cheese. It makes the crust taste really good, and it's not dry.
You should try that sometime.
You should. It's good. It's really good. I like it. And I've done before where I'll put like the olive oil and then put red sauce on top. Which is also good because it still helps with the thing. But just straight up olive oil is just because there's a couple of pizzas on the menu there that already have that. But when I make my pizzas, no matter what I put on them, I'll do the olive oil. It's good.
What do you think about white sauce pizzas?
White sauce is depending on where you go. A lot of places it's just like ranch dressing, which is where I'm at. That's what it is. It's good. It kind of fluffs up a little bit. It's kind of good. But at the place I used to work, it was Alfredo sauce.
Oh, I forgot. That's right. You work with pizza.
Yeah, I work at Ricky's right now.
So you're kind of an expert.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I guess so. Yes, you could say that. That's one of my skills is making pizza. Because we'll do that at home here too. But over at Rinaldi's they had, or Patricio's now, they had the Alfredo sauce that they put on. It was just butter, Parmesan cheese, and cream.
Or something.
Yeah, dude, and they'd make it fresh over there.
See, I love Alfredo sauce, but I don't know if I'd want it on a pizza.
Okay.
To me, it's just too different for me to try it.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet.
Well, you got to put the right toppings with it. Like if you throw like chicken on there, or stuff that
chicken on pizza. Again.
No.
I mean,
What do you like on pizza? Are you just like boring pepperoni kind of guy, or what?
bacon, pepperoni, sausage.
Okay.
I like all those meats.
So you're a meat guy mostly.
Yes. Usually, if I have an option to pick the pizza, I'd be like just all the meats.
Okay,
Except
meat
I don't really
lovers.
care for the chicken.
Okay.
And I don't like the Canadian bacon. I've
Okay.
had places where I'm like, oh yeah, bacon, and they put Canadian bacon. Like, this isn't bacon.
Well, that's why I always ask at work, because we have bacon, like breakfast bacon crumbled up, right? And then we also have ham. So when people say Canadian bacon, I'm like, well, what do you want? Do you want ham or do you want like breakfast bacon? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I say, well, most places that say Canadian bacon, it's like slices of ham. You know, it's not actually bacon. It's just what they call bacon in Canada, I guess. That's why it's Canadian bacon.
Yeah, and I guess someone said in the UK it's also bacon.
Okay.
It's just sliced ham.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same animal, right? I mean, it's coming from the same animal.
Yes, but totally different preparation.
Yeah.
Flavor.
And flavor. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and I think like Canadian bacon is okay, but it's got to be like a Hawaiian pizza with the pineapple.
That one, it's like a nice contrast.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm like, I can kind of do without it.
Yeah.
I prefer nice, crunchy, salty bacon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you'd like our meat lovers then.
Yeah.
This pepperoni, sausage, bacon. Well, it's got the ham on it.
I mean, it's fine when it's with the other stuff.
And
but
linguiça.
if it's in place of it, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's not a substitute.
Okay.
Yeah. And linguiça. Yeah. Like spicy linguiça or?
No, just standard linguiça. I mean, it's already got some spice, but not. You can buy like the hot kind.
Yeah.
It's actually spicy, but you could just add. You could get the meat lovers and add jalapenos if you wanted to spice it up a little bit.
I'm not much of a spice guy.
No.
But that sounds really good with the linguiça.
You should try it, man.
I probably will.
You should. All right, well, we're already rolling, as you can see. So
I didn't know what any of that meant.
What?
All that.
Oh yeah, so we're rolling. This is you talking, me talking. That's our wavelengths right there.
I'm not very techie.
Me neither. I wouldn't have any idea what I'm doing if it wasn't for Aiden. Aiden does all this. I mean, he sets all this. I mean, I know how to set this up now, but when I first started, I didn't have any idea. But now I know how to do this part. And then all I do is I record us talking, and then I save it, and then I give it to him, and he does all the mastering and the editing. And I mean, I do the editing, but he does. He makes it sound good, because my technology is not. Probably gonna go about 3 hours. So because then I got a hot dog order in over there. So Jordan said she worked today. So I was like, she gave me her schedule like at the beginning of the week, and I said, well, I'm on program up until I'm doing the podcast with James, and I'm going to do chai, which means I'm off program. So maybe I can go get a hot dog after that or something for lunch. And she goes, oh, okay. But I think she gets off at 2 or something. She said so.
Get a little date plan for later.
Oh, nice. Yeah. When does she leave, dude? Is it this week?
No. The week of the 20th. The 20th is moving day.
Okay. So she's got a whole other week here, and then it's like Monday, Tuesday that she's leaving?
We're going to go on Monday.
Okay.
So I reserved a room down at, what is it, Best Western or something down there.
Okay.
They got a room too, Best Western.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think Denise got a room for the next night, for the night of the 20th. Mm-hmm. I didn't. Now I'm kind of like thinking, should I have?
Yeah.
Or am I just going to straight shot it all the way back that night? Because I didn't take the next day off of work.
Oh,
I just
okay.
had Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, you could probably just sleep on the street. I mean, that's pretty common around California. So
sweater on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's summertime, so it shouldn't be that cold out there.
Yeah, by law, they can't make them move. So, well, actually, no. Now there's that thing where Newsom he say that you can like disperse homeless encampments now.
You're right.
And all of a sudden the riverbed's cleared.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then people are saying, well, now you're going to see lots of gatherings in other places around town.
Yep.
Where you've gotten used to not seeing them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all going to flood back.
And of course, the timing on that was impeccable. Newsom,
Election time.
Yeah, we've had this problem for how many years now, and everybody's been complaining about it for how long, and he doesn't do anything, and then now election's coming up. Hey, let's get rid of the homeless people.
Oh my goodness, I care about it so much. Gotta change this.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, acts like it's a new problem or something. It's like, So
a while back, that whole thing when China, like those.
Yeah, Xi Jinping came to visit, and
he cleared San Francisco.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, whenever that stuff happens, I think, we can see you, right? I mean, you do realize you are the governor of California. You're on TV. The things you do, everybody's going to know. So why do you think we're so stupid that we don't put 2 and 2 together and be like, oh, did he just happen to clean up the city right before some foreign leaders coming over?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
You'd think he would have gotten wise by now, but even back, in 2020, he was eating at that fancy restaurant or something.
Oh, when COVID?
With all his buddies.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
what's up, dude?
Unmasked, the whole thing, after he's telling all of us we can't, leave our house.
He's just kind of like, well,
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like and that's why I don't understand that kind of dishonesty. Mm-hmm. Like fine, if you are going to tell us to do that and then you try to sneak and not do that and you get caught, own it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be like, oh, I mean, I'm Gavin Newsom. I mean, these laws don't apply to me, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
Those were the moments for me when I started to realize that COVID was not, I mean, from them, it wasn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. As big a deal as they were making it out to be. Like when COVID first happened, I mean, obviously we were all freaked out a little bit. It was like we were seeing the news like, oh my gosh, people are just dying every 5 seconds. You go outside, you're just going to drop over dead.
Well, it was weird for me. I was down in Marietta in Bible college. And,
oh boy.
I hadn't heard even a whisper of it until someone said something like, oh yeah, there's this like disease going around. I'm like, well, that sucks. Guess I'm just going to, make sure to wash my hands.
Right. Yeah.
And then I got like a text from my mom. She's like, oh my goodness, like try to stay in as much, don't go out, don't talk to people. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, because they freaked everybody out.
She's like, there's this thing going around. People are getting sick and dying. I'm like, no way. And I look it up. And then I start seeing memes and stuff of it on Instagram, the coronavirus.
Right.
And all the, like the Corona beer memes.
Yeah, exactly. Like making fun of it, right?
I Google, I'm like, is this like just a meme virus?
It's a computer virus, right?
Yeah, I'm like, or is this real? And it's like, oh no, people are dying everywhere. I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
It still didn't really like scare me.
Okay.
Because I hadn't actually seen anything.
Okay.
And I'm just in Marietta, and I'm telling my roommates, like, apparently there's this thing going around. They're like, yeah, we heard about it. It's kind of weird. Like, back home, people are talking about it everywhere. Because we had people from all over, some from all these different states, some from New York, Washington, Midwest.
Some of the places that were hotspots in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because Washington was a big hotspot in the beginning. And New York, obviously. New York had more deaths, I think, than any other state. But
it was all packed in and stuff. But it's like, it was weird. And then all of a sudden, the campus started shutting down and stuff. Like, oh, you can't leave anywhere unless it's absolutely necessary. And if you need to get food or something. And it's like, we want to walk to A and PM. Right. So you
got to eat, right?
And they're like, yeah, we're getting food, essentials. And they're like, if it's not essential, please try it. And they're not going to force us to stay. Yeah. And one time we just left campus for the day. Oh. We went off to like Hemet, California.
Hardcore, man.
Up in the mountains to some little old Mexican house. It looked like it was in Mexico. It was like a hilly.
Did somebody live
there? Yeah. One of the students had like a friend who lived with their grandparents up there, and they're like, yeah, they're going to be cooking some dinner, and they invited us, and we're like, oh, that was cool.
You're like, nice.
And we went, and we totally forgot of everything that's going on. And and we had no reception up there.
Oh, no. So you couldn't get the news anyway.
Come down from the hill, and my dorm steward's like, dude, the dean of students came by for a spontaneous dorm check. Yeah. And none of you were here. He's like, just me sitting on my bed reading a book. And he's like, where are they at? I'm like, they went out for groceries. And he looked at me like, dude. He's like, I can't do that again for you guys. He's like, you guys need to like reel it in. Sorry.
So, but there was some people. Most of us, I think, like I said, I mean, maybe you weren't. Most of us were afraid in the beginning, at least a little bit, because we didn't know what it was. The news was making it sound like it was the apocalypse, like all these crazy things are happening. But then, as things started to happen, or not happen, I should say, for most of us, we started to realize, okay, this isn't as big as they're making it out to be. Yeah. But then there was a lot of people that didn't follow that, and even today, I mean, today we're 3 years later, and I still see people driving in their cars by themselves wearing a mask. Yeah, and I'm like, whoa, dude, what? Like, was the deception just so ingrained?
Some of them, like, even outside of just the fear of getting sick, some of them they just really latched on to wearing the masks. Like, there's a dude at UPS, and
he just loves it.
I don't know what his face looked like.
Okay.
I started there in 2020. And like, I genuinely have no idea what his face looks like. Yeah. And that people ask like, oh, why don't you take it off? And he kind of just makes little jokes about it. He's like, oh, because I'm ugly. I don't want you to see my face.
Because I'm ugly. He's like, I get more dates this way.
And we're just like,
I got pretty eyes.
One guy, like, I don't go out and put him on the spot, but the other guy did. And he's like, so why don't you take it off, dude? Like, yeah. He's like, I don't really want to. And it's like, they just are really content with it.
See, that is fascinating. See, I love to ask questions of those people, not because I'm trying to be a jerk, but I mean, I'm just really genuinely curious. Like, we had a kid that worked as a delivery driver where I'm at, And same thing. I didn't know what he looked like for the first year and a half I worked there. And I was like, what do you even look like? And then we had like a work meeting one time, and food was provided, like it was catered, right? So he's eating. So obviously has to take the mask off to eat. And I finally saw what it looked like. I'm like, dude, nice to see your face, man. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, you always have that mask on. I said, you do. It's like, you understand. I'm thinking this now. This is the part I'm thinking. I didn't say any of this. But I'm thinking to myself, like, you're working with us all the time. You realize nobody else here ever has a mask on. You walk outside, hardly anybody ever has a mask on. Like, nobody does anymore. Why do you still? Like, what is it that's keeping you? You think you're the only person in the world who has the insight and like, oh, I'm the only smart one. Everyone else is going to die. I'm going to be like Will Smith and I Am Legend, and I'm going to be the only dude left on Earth, and everyone else is going to die in this plague that's going to sweep the nation, but not me because I'm wearing my mask. You know?
And that's how I thought it was for a while. Like, these people are kind of like that, but a lot of them, they've gotten so used to the habit and the lifestyle of just doing it, I guess, and they just don't think any differently. They're like, oh, no, we just do it. And it's like, so why don't you just stop if you're just doing it? They're like, it just comes natural now. I'm like, dang.
Yeah. It's just a part of their face or something. I can't stand those things because we had to wear them. We had to wear them at work. It was mandatory for a while.
UPS we had to, too.
Oh, see, and that sucks even more because you're driving around, you're running stuff up to the thing. And
the drivers didn't have to.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're not a driver? I thought you were a driver.
I'm a part-time driver.
Oh, okay.
I work in the warehouse.
Gotcha.
Well, I think the drivers, the supervisors wanted them to.
Okay.
So they supplied them masks. Even UPS ones, fabric ones, and everything, which turns out they're not good because you can't really breathe through them.
Yeah, breathing.
Really
breathing is really important.
Yeah,
it's a vital part of survival. I would think.
And you got to wash them too. I mean, some of those guys, you can tell they didn't, or they just wear them constantly on their neck.
Yeah.
But so they wanted drivers to do it. Most of the drivers didn't because like, that's ridiculous. Look, I'm out here and.
Right.
And like, even if
I got no doors on my car.
Everyone contacts them wearing like face shields and stuff and hazmat. They're like, oh, we'll take our box. And in the warehouse, we all had to wear them all the time. And at the time, we had a manager where she was like, I guess she was like, what is it? She has, I forgot what the word is, but like, she was more susceptible to getting sick.
Oh, like immune.
She was immunal
deficiency or compromise. Yeah, there you go.
So she has a compromised immune system. So it was a really big deal for her. Mm-hmm. She would like flip out if any of us didn't have a mask or anything. And one day we have an upstairs section, kind of up some stairs to where the trailers get loaded and the belts ramp up to there. There's 3 trailers and there's like maybe 6 of us up there. She goes walking by one day, and I knew she saw my face. I didn't have my mask on.
Ooh.
She had it under my chin. I'm like, no.
Oh, you had it on, but it wasn't up.
Yeah.
Okay.
She comes up, and I'm like, oh, no. She goes, looks around. None of us are wearing them up there. All 6 guys. Well, no, there was one other guy who was wearing it, but he was just subconscious. He didn't even realize he was wearing his mask. And she's just up there chewing us out and everything. And one of the guys tried to duck behind a little pillar, so she didn't see him. She's like, I see you over there. And then she's like, get over here. She's like, I know you guys probably don't care and everything, but I really care. She's like, I have a weakened immune system, and I can get really, really sick from it. And we're just standing there just taking it. And we're kind of like, that was kind of dumb. Except for the one guy wearing it. He's like, man, I feel so bad. I'm like, dude, you're the only one wearing one. He's like, oh, I am. I'm like,
oh, he thought it was off?
He didn't even realize. He's like, man, because we were still there at the time. He felt bad because the manager came and told us stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're the only one who was doing it. But it was dumb. And then when the state lifted the mask mandate or whatever.
After like 12 years.
UPS had a day where everyone came in not wearing them.
Yeah.
I was gone that day.
Oh!
And they're like, yeah, no more masks. But UPS put out a statement and said, no, we are still requiring our employees to. So the next day after that, everyone's back to masks. And I come in and
you missed it. You missed the one day of freedom.
And everyone's like, man, we didn't have it. I'm like, what? No way. They're like, yeah, but then
they're probably dancing. They probably had the music playing.
And they're like, man, we all got to see each other's faces. We didn't know what each other looked like. Most of the guys. I knew what some of them did. And I'm like, man, I missed out. And then like a few months later, then we finally get to take them off. And I'm like, by that point, we'd all seen each other's faces. I'm like, the surprise is gone. Right. Now. Like, I'm only there for that day.
Yeah. That's why it was the library, too. Like, I heard that the state mandate was gone. And I'm like, oh, cool. But then like, no, we still have to, as a public, whatever, we still have to go by the OSHA guidelines. And dude, I'm not confrontational usually. I mean, like with stuff, like I usually just do what I'm told. I'm pretty compliant.
I was up until
but I was right. But I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, and I said, has anybody questioned OSHA as the reasons why they think? Is there all these studies showing that these masks actually work? Is there data to support this stuff or no?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we don't ask questions. We just do. We just have to do what they're told.
You know, this is a policy, and I'm like,
yeah.
Like UPS, like this is just UPS policy, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think 2020 is when I started being a little. My mom's a little argumentative sometimes. I get that from her a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I remember there was just one day I'm in the trailers and I'm loading and I have my mask on my face. I can't breathe. And I'm already like asthmatic.
Oh, see, you're compromised then.
But apparently it doesn't qualify or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like heavy breathing and they're loading an entire trailer and the supervisor's like, oh, you guys need to have your masks on in here. I'm like, I'm working in here. I'm not putting it on.
Yeah.
And then she was kind of just like, okay, and just like left. And after that, doesn't say anything. I'm like, I wasn't trying to be, you know, like, I don't know, just a mean person or something.
Right.
And then later on, I'm like, I'll put it back, you know, as I go downstairs or whatever. Most of the time, I'd wear it under my nose.
Yeah,
too.
so
like,
you can breathe.
Yeah.
Because breathing's important.
A lot of us did that. We'd keep it under our nose, and every time the manager would come out, we'd just pull it and then snap it back over our nose, being all dramatic about it.
Yeah.
Like, we're putting it in.
She'd start to hear the snaps. So, yeah, I mean, I think the COVID...
It brought a lot out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just going through so many new things. Some people who weren't necessarily confrontational after that kind of found a very stern voice in all of that.
Right.
And then some people, you kind of see they just more go with the flow and just went with everything.
Yeah. Well, to a point, right? I mean, it seemed like some people were very go with the flow.
And you found their limits.
Until it was like 3 years.
Yeah.
And the question has to be asked, like, seriously, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be confrontational, but like, how long is this going to go on? And I talk to people, like, because I know people wear the mask forever and nobody can come to my house, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, how long are you going to do this for? And a lot of times the answer back was, well, until COVID's gone. I said, well, then you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life.
It's the flu never left.
Exactly.
So.
Right, exactly. It's like at some point you're going to have to come to terms with and just like look around. And I can think that's how I started going into this topic with you, is that for me, when like things like Gavin Newsom going out to eat with all his family and Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done in downtown San Francisco, like all these things were happening from these higher ups who were making us feel like it was so dangerous and so scary to go outside without a mask and all this stuff. They were freaking us out, but they're not living that way.
Like
so yeah, and then I started to realize either they know something I don't know or they're not scared of it.
Yeah.
So why should I be scared of it if they're not?
Yeah.
You know? And so that's kind of where everything changed
that
for me.
Funny saying that came out of all of it's like rules for thee but not for me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Right. Like, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Because if I really believe, like, let's say there's like I'm saying that there's shark infested water and we're a bunch of surfers or something. We're like, okay, there's shark infested water. And I'm telling everybody, don't go in the water, there's sharks in there, you're going to die. And then everybody goes, oh, okay, and you freak out. And then you see me swimming in there day after day after day. You're going to be like, wait a minute, what? You're not scared of this. You must be lying. You must just want all the water to yourself. Like you want all the waves to yourself, so you're lying to us.
Either that, or like you said, or you know something that I don't.
Right.
And so then it will press you to want to find more out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, either way, we end up finding out it's not really that bad for most of us.
Right.
I mean, because obviously there were people affected and stuff.
Well, of course.
I think I only really, like, real life knew of one person that, you know, who wasn't, like, severely immunocompromised or really old.
Was he the guy that went to church?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was... I didn't know him, but... No kids.
I didn't know him very well. I did know his kids.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
But
that's fluke stuff, right? That stuff happens all the time. We just don't know about it, right? But during COVID, they put that everything on the news, like especially if it was somebody like that who was like, oh, he's only 40 years old, he's fit as a fiddle, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he's not a druggie, he's not overweight, he's like all these things, and he's gone from COVID, because they can say that, and then guys that are that way will be like, oh no.
Yeah, like,
that could be me. I could be next. You know, but it's like
that guy.
Yeah, but it's like how many people in that demographic did that happen to? Hardly anybody. Most of the people were in their 80s or severely obese, or there's all these other issues that were making, which is the same as the flu. If you're up in the 80s and you get the flu, that could be deadly.
Yeah.
You and I get the flu, we just feel like crap for 2 to 3 days, and then we stay in bed, and then we get out and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But when we're 80, that might be the end for us, So it's like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And through all of that, though, lots of people started thinking for themselves about certain things, whether it be about, all this COVID or law stuff that was going on. But just like, I think a lot of people started applying that to just everything in their lives, a lot of people. And some people, I don't know, they seem to have gotten a little hungry for that kind of, I don't know, disagreeing with people. Some people kind of really liked that, and they really thought they shined in that. And I'm like, I didn't really like being confrontational. It's just that sometimes I felt like I just needed to.
Right.
Yeah.
So you think that during COVID, it kind of brought out even people that are kind of more reserved. It kind of got them to a point where they're like, no, I'm arguing this. This is ridiculous.
Because before that, I don't think I'd ever really been, obviously growing up, I'd be arguing with my parents sometimes.
Right. No. Come on.
But with just like people that I'm not really like, I guess, close to or friends with or something, or I don't know them that well, I've always kind of been just like,
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know you could talk for a long time because, like, we would hang out with the Yamamotos and you would be there, obviously. And I was like, oh, this is Jordan's boyfriend. And blah, blah, yeah. He seems like a nice guy. I never talked to him once. Does he ever talk? And then it wasn't until like maybe the last year or so that I was like, started talking. I was like, whoa, this guy actually likes to talk and stuff. This is kind of cool. The main night, we'll get to some of this in the spiritual discussion, but one of the main nights for me that I realized like, wow, this guy has some cool things to say was the night we were having the debate with Aiden at my house right here. Remember we had a bunch of people over and we had this big old discussion in the back room, and it's like, man, that was really cool. And there were some younger kids. I don't know if you heard this part of the story, but there were some younger kids in here, teenagers that were just hanging out listening. And it got to the point where I felt like, oh, are their parents okay with like them here? Because it got pretty heated in some parts, Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if their parents are okay with them listening to this kind of debate. And I talked to some of the parents later, and they were like, no, that's so good for them to hear that. I'm so glad. And she was even like, oh, and my son, he thought that was awesome to listen to you guys defend the faith and be able to have answers to some of these critiques of Christianity and all that. So it was really faith building for a lot of those teenagers that were listening to that. So I was like, oh, cool. Okay, good. Maybe the Lord used it for something. I don't know. But
even having those kinds of discussions, I wasn't really skilled at that until around 2020. But it wasn't only because of the whole COVID thing. But like I went to Bible college, and you don't always agree with people that
right.
meet in the world, and that was kind of one of the first times I'm like, oh, I could really disagree with other Christians.
Yes.
And it's not like it's like salvation issues,
right? Yeah. It's like sprinkle or immerse, right? There's always those different sects that aren't that big a deal, but yeah.
But it would be like, I don't want to like belittle other things, but they're just kind of like, they weren't consequential really, but they're kind of like
right.
And I kind of learned how to have conversations that are civil with people, because some people get really heated, or they're just really passionate, I guess.
Right.
Because it's not necessarily they're hotheads, but they get passionate.
Right.
And I kind of, I guess, learned to kind of roll with them. Like, all right, we're not arguing. Right. We're talking.
Right. Just calm down. But you never want to say that, especially if you're talking to a woman, because that's a little life lesson for you too. When you guys get married eventually, you're like, just never say calm down.
Jordan's very calm.
She is very calm.
Yes.
But if there's ever any point where she doesn't, and you just don't say calm down, I'm just telling you, don't say it. Even if it needs to happen, don't say it, because it's not going to end good for you.
She's always right, and she's always calm.
Well, that's logical. That is good to remember too. Happy wife, happy life. Right? That's the terms I live by. But so, all right, let's circle back a little bit and get into music. I usually start there. I always say I start there, but I kind of just start wherever we start going, which in this case was COVID, which is very cool. It's been a while since I talked about COVID on here, actually. It's kind of out of the thing, but
I guess it was like a big chapter of my life.
Oh yeah, that was because of your age. You're in college, yeah, for sure.
I just left home in 2020.
Yeah. Because Alora was at Biola during that too, and she didn't even get to graduate, which is a bummer. I mean, she graduated, but she didn't have. I mean, they had a big ceremony, and there's this thing they do called mock rock, and they do it every year, and it's like they do like these skits and dances to certain, and it's really fun. And we used to watch the videos of the previous classes that had done it. And she was signed up. They'd been practicing. She was all excited about it. And then they never did it because COVID hit and they closed the campus and everybody had to go home. And it's just terrible. I mean, it's just terrible. And I get it. Again, if you really believe that that's the best thing to do to save the lives of your students, then that's what you got to do.
A lot of the times they always say, "But we didn't know at the time." But then I'm like, "But when you did know,
right?
Things didn't really change." But
you would think. But then by then the state had their hands in it, and they're like, "No, even if you don't agree with us and you want to come back, no, you can't do it.
No
public
church
meetings."
Kind of just said, "Well,
right,
we're gonna open."
Yeah, which we weren't going there at the time either because we're back. I don't know if you know that, but we started going to Calvary when we first got saved, like back in 2001, maybe 2001, 2002. Yeah, see that? Yeah. So exactly, so we started going around. I think it was around then, 98. Yeah, it must have been because Laura was born 98, and she was about 2 or 3 when we started going there.
I thought Laura was a lot older than me.
She's 25.
Like 2 years.
Yeah, she's not much. You're closer to Aiden's age, right? He's 22. Are you 23?
I'm 23. I'm going to be 24 in February.
Okay, Aiden's 23 in February. So you guys are about a year apart. February what?
Valentine's Day, 14th.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all February, man. I'm the 7th. My mom's the 2nd. My Aunt Marianne was the 10th, I believe. We're all Februarys, man. Aiden is the 26th. Yeah, dude. It's like it's all over the place. And Danny's kids, his daughter shares a birthday with me.
Charlie.
Yeah, February 7th. She's February 7th. Yeah, so there's just all these people in our family that are Februarys, and then we had a whole bunch of May birthdays too. But anyway, yeah, so they're similar. You're closer to Aiden's age, but yeah. So we started going there. We went there about 5 years, and then we ended up going to another church for like 12 years.
That's a good
and then
chunk.
it is a good chunk, and then we ended up leaving that church, and then we just we went back to Calvary for a little bit, and it wasn't really working for us. So then we tried a couple other places, and then we ended up at the Harbor for like 5 years. So went over on Foster. Then when we left there, then we came back to Calvary, and that was like 2-3 years ago, and we've been there ever since. So we like it again. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we really like Connor and his preaching. I think is really good. His teaching. So so let's get into some music. This is something I haven't ever really talked to you about. Are you even a music person at all, or do you don't really care?
What do you define as a music person?
Well, someone who likes music.
I like music.
Okay.
I can't play anything. I don't sing.
Oh, right. Like you are not a musician.
Yeah.
But like from the listening side of things, do you enjoy listening to music?
I really do. But
Okay.
I'm not a connoisseur. I don't know any of the fancy lingo when it comes to music. I like that song. I like that artist.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's all you need, man. As a listener, that's really all, that's all it is. I like that. It's really all you need.
Yeah.
That's good. I want to hear more of that.
Yeah. I think my favorite artist is Johnny Cash.
Okay. Oh, I did know that.
Yeah.
That's right. We did talk about that.
I guess that's a well-known thing about
Well,
me.
because it's fascinating. Because you're 20. You said you're what? 24? 23?
23.
You're 23, and he was probably dead before you were born.
I think so.
Right? I think he died in the 80s at some point. Maybe 90s? No, maybe later.
2000.
2000. Okay.
Early 2000.
Oh, that's true, because I think he was still alive when the movie came out with Joaquin Phoenix. I want to say he was still alive during the making of that or something.
Probably.
But anyway, okay, Johnny Cash. Interesting. Yeah. Now, you got to walk me through that. How in the world? Who turned you on to that?
Well,
I guess
my grandpa, when I was really little, I was really close to my grandpa when I was little. I know he liked old country a lot. And as, you got older, I guess he started liking more newer country, and I didn't really care for that. But I really stuck to the old country.
Okay.
And we kind of weren't as close as time went on and stuff. But, I don't know. I felt like I was a little closer to when I'd listened to the old country and all that. And I went through different artists, like, I don't know if you know who Marty Robbins is.
I know the name.
Yeah, it sings like old, like cowboy songs.
Yeah, right.
And stuff.
Like a Hank Williams Sr. or
I did like Hank Williams too.
Yeah.
I really liked his music.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like his music.
See, I love it.
I found that out at UPS because
Yeah.
I had a Bluetooth speaker and I would work with it.
Turn that crap off.
And I discovered Johnny Cash at the time. So he wasn't like really one of the artists I remember my grandpa listening to. But
Okay.
I really liked Johnny Cash.
Okay. Do you remember what the first song you heard by him was?
I think it probably was like one of those like well-known ones that everybody knows.
Like Ring of Fire.
Like Ring of Fire.
Yeah, that was the first one I ever heard.
Or Walk the Line.
Yeah.
Or I Walk the Line.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Which are 2 different songs. Right?
Actually, Walk the Line is the movie.
Okay.
I Walk the Line
is the song. Okay.
And it's funny, Denise and Jordan shared this thing. They were watching Jeopardy or something, and someone got asked a Johnny Cash type question. And they asked what the song was, and the person responded with what is Walk the Line? They got it wrong.
They didn't give it to him?
They didn't say I Walk the Line.
Oh my gosh.
If you think about it, they're 2 different things, a movie and a song.
Yeah.
And they said Walk the Line.
Oh, come on.
And then
I would have been like, Alex, come on, buddy. You got to give me that one. I mean,
Jordan and Denise were like, you probably would have gotten that. Huh?
Yeah.
Like,
you would have nailed it. Yeah. You would have been a millionaire now. See? You just got to get on Jeopardy.
Yeah, for the one question.
For the one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the whole category. Was the whole category Johnny Cash? Or was it just like...
I don't remember. I think it might have just been like music icons or something like that. But
yeah.
So Johnny Cash, my favorite. I could listen to him all day, every day, nonstop.
Yeah, you never get tired
of it. People around me can't.
Yeah.
So
I don't think there's anybody I could listen to nonstop all the time without eventually needing a break. Even like my favorite artist. But I think Johnny Cash is... I tend to really appreciate and respect people that I see are doing something different. Mm-hmm. And I think Johnny Cash, I mean, even though it's a certain kind of country that lots of people have done. Yeah, and lots of people have done that, but nobody can copy Johnny Cash. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a unique sound that is just... Because a lot of the country artists, you could put them all on and I would never know who was who. Yeah. If a Johnny Cash song comes on, even if I've never heard it before, I'm like, that's definitely Johnny Cash. Yeah. You know?
Because his voice alone was obviously different. But right. So there was other, like, outlaw country artists that didn't have the same sound, in my opinion, as Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And I just really liked it. And then, see, for me, there's enough diversity in the stuff Johnny Cash has. Yeah. That like gives me a little variety, so I'm not listening to just the same stuff from him. Right. So he's got like his more like outlawish, like a rebel kind of music. Yeah. And he's got his hymns,
like Johnny Yuma and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then he's just got the more clean cut 50 stuff that he started with. So it's like I have enough diversity within his music that I don't know, I could just bounce back between while I'm listening to it.
Yeah, this is kind of funny. Do you remember you might be too young. Do you remember the video game? It was a computer game, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
I remember hearing a lot about it when I was little.
Okay. They had a TV show for a while, but it was like a game in the 80s that came out. It was like one of the original like PC games that people were playing. But it was like the whole premise was you'd have to find, like Carmen Sandiego was like this mastermind, and she had all these thieves and criminals working under her, and they were traveling the world, because like there was different ones. Where in the USA is Carmen Sandiego, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, all these different ones. Mm-hmm. And I remember the Where in the USA one is the first one I played. I must have been like 9 or 10. We were at a friend's house like in Palo Alto near San Francisco, and I was like the only kid. My parents were hanging out with their friend. I was like, I had nothing to do. They're like, oh, and she's like, oh, go play on the computer. I have this game called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, or Where in the US is Carmen Sandiego. So I started playing it. And every time you flew, so let me premise. So you get on a plane, and every time you're like, oh, there's a clue that leads to Nevada or something. And then the plane flies to Nevada, and then you have to question people there because you're looking for this criminal. And then you got to fly to North Dakota, and you're flying all over the country, right? Mm-hmm. And every time it would fly into, it must have been like Nashville or somewhere Tennessee. It was like, I fell into a burning ring of fire. And I had no idea who it was. No clue. For years, I had no idea. And then, like, years later, I had heard the name Johnny Cash, but I couldn't have told you any of his songs. Mm-hmm. And then, and this is what, I'm kind of a newer fan of Johnny Cash. Like, you were probably a fan before I was, even though you're way younger than me, is when they put out the trailer for the movie Logan. Did you see the trailer for Logan?
I probably have, but I don't remember.
Well, they had the cover song that Johnny Cash did when he covered Nine Inch Nails' Hurt. I hurt myself today. You know that song?
Yes.
And they're playing it in the trailer, and I'm like getting weepy. Like, it's just hitting me right in the soul, dude. I'm like, what is this song? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I look up, what's Johnny Cash? And I'm like, I love this song. And that's like a way later song. That's one of the songs he recorded like He died shortly after that, right?
Yeah, he died not too long after his wife, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, he was up in years at the time he did the Hurt cover, but I loved it, and so I started looking up all his other stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I was surprised at how many songs that when I heard him, I go, oh, I know this song, oh, I know that song, I just didn't know it was him, and then I got to Ring of Fire, and I was like, that's the song from Where in the USA is Carmen, Sandiego, the game that I heard when I was like 9 years old. I've been trying to find that song forever. And it was just kind of a weird thing. So then I started going through and getting I started listening to all of his stuff. And so now on my phone I have a pretty good selection of Johnny Cash songs just because.
I have a good selection too.
Yeah.
I've gotten more into his gospel and hymn songs too.
Okay.
I really like them. Like at first, because I was really into his more outlawish songs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really ready for those, And then I've had my listen through them, and I really enjoy them. A lot of them are peaceful. Some of them are funny. Some of them, I like singing along. I don't sing, but when I'm alone,
you do sing, just not in front of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. See.
Yeah. Much of a.
Most people sing, just not with anybody else around.
I don't sing and I don't dance.
Yeah, I never dance.
I don't.
I'll slow dance with my wife if she wants to slow dance, but fast dancing, no, that's not my thing.
I don't do that either.
Yeah.
Jordan sometimes well, will you ever dance with me? I'm like, well, when the day comes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, on your wedding day.
But I'm like,
you have to then.
I'm like, nothing's come up yet. So.
See, I had to tell Bethany from the beginning because when I met Bethany, she was not only likes to dance, but she was in dance classes. Because she was still in high school when we met. She was choreographing. She's all into dance, right? And I had to tell her, I said, look, there's something you need to know before we let this relationship go any further. I just don't dance. She's like, I'm not sure she really understood until years later. I was like, I've been telling you this for years. It's just not my thing. I said,
I can't dance. I don't dance.
I don't dance.
Yeah.
There's no.
For me, it's both. I can't and I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe if I
you can. See, that's the thing. People say I can't sing. Everybody can sing. Maybe you can't sing well.
Yeah.
You can't dance well.
People are pretty tone deaf.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah. And Jordan, she's more, her and her sisters are a little more, I guess, dance-y.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
I think women generally are more so than men. I mean, not straight across the board. There's obviously plenty of men that like to dance, but I think
I would agree that
if you had to pull it, percentage-wise, there's probably way more women that enjoy dancing than men. Like, if you go to a club, you're going to see more women, I think, dancing, unless there's guys dancing with them because they're interested in the girl and they're
I can't say I've ever been to a club, or
I haven't either.
I ever will, but
yeah, I've seen videos though.
I like parties, like family parties, gatherings, get-togethers. It's usually none of the young guys are really dancing unless I don't know. They dance. If they're just doing it just to go and be fun, I don't do that.
Right.
I'm fine with just
because it's not fun.
Out.
Yeah,
it's not fun for me.
No, it's not.
But usually the girls would be more dance with each other and have fun and stuff.
Right.
And the guys will dance a little bit and have fun with it. But generally more of the girls would be dancing than the guys.
Yeah. Well, because there's dancing, right? There's Michael Jackson dancing, where this is talent, right? This takes a lot of work and practice, and you're doing cool things, and or even looking at choreography. You watch all these people that are doing the same thing at the same time in unison. That takes dedication and practice. And then there's party dancing, where you just kind of get out in there and you just kind of just shaking your body around. Yeah, exactly. Well, I couldn't do either. I couldn't do the choreographed stuff either.
Well, but
I have more respect for it.
I could. Depends on what's choreographed. I think I could probably do something. I don't know. Because with VBS, I can do a few of those things.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I don't really do the jumping. I don't do fast twirls. I just kind of turn myself around in a circle.
Yeah.
But that's probably the most I've done.
And that's when you're forced to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to be a good example for the kids.
And I'm really giving the effort for the kids and stuff. And I find a little bit of fun in it. But I'm after it's done, nope. It's it turns off.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
You're game over.
And with my little siblings, when they're little, playing with them, you dance around with them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's different, but
Yeah. It's funny. I forgot this memory until you just said that about when we used to watch Jordan when she was little over here. We would, I would dance with her all the time. She used to laugh, dude. She was little. She must have been a year old or something. And I would hold her, and then we put on, and my two kids were a little older at the time, and or at least Alora was. But we would, we put on loud music, and we just dude, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but I would never do this like on a dance floor, like with other people. And I don't know why that is. I'm sure it's like it's like an embarrassment thing or something.
I think a little bit. I mean, well, some of it has to do with like embarrassment thing. I'm not going to do that on the dance floor, but like, I mean, with my little siblings when they're little and stuff, I dance with them
because it's fun for them.
Put on a fun song or something.
Yeah,
I'm not really doing anything specific. I'm just dancing around with them.
Right,
and it was fun, you know. But I mean, but nowadays they're not much dancers either.
Yeah,
my sister, I don't think I've seen her dance outside of being a little kid. Just whenever
she's getting older now.
She's getting older,
so it's like that whole Then the I don't know what you call that. Embarrassment's probably not the right word, but
self-conscious.
Self-conscious. Exactly. You're more aware of like other people and stuff.
Yeah. JoJo's not as self-conscious as my sister.
No,
he's a little more open to being a little funny and goofy, and dancing or singing.
He gets his groove on out there on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Okay. Does he sing? Is he a singer?
He sings. Yeah, he enjoys singing.
Yeah. Is there anybody in your family that's like musically inclined in any way, or?
We've all tried.
Okay. Well,
my brother Jacob, he's tried when we were little to sing. Didn't really go very far. I mean, just for fun, I guess.
Yeah.
He did learn a little piano. He hasn't probably touched a piano in a good amount of years. Chloe tries to play the keyboard a little bit.
Okay.
I think it's more so just for fun.
Well, you never know. They might use that at church. She could play keyboard in the youth worship team or something.
She could. If she would like to do that, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
She'd have to give a little more practice because right now it's more of just when she's bored, she wants to do a little something. Maya, when he was really little, liked to sing and stuff, and then he'd do his own little like worship songs, I guess.
Okay.
Sometimes they would sound a bit odd. He's just singing about whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'd just be singing about how he's mad at someone. I'm like, okay, it's interesting.
It's like the worship turns into, and Lord, please rain fire from heaven on this one guy because he really ticked me off.
Singing, he's like, I love Jesus, just singing that, and he's like, my brother's super mean, and he's a dummy, and I'm like, not about me, but the other brothers.
Yeah. See, that was probably just to see if you were listening, if you guys were listening.
I guess a lot of kids though would do that, from what I hear.
Yeah.
A lot of kids would do a little singing to themselves and just say whatever's on their mind. Or stuff.
Oh, that's funny, man. So back to Johnny. Besides Johnny Cash, is there other?
I like a lot of oldies.
Okay.
So I mean, outside of that country, because I like a lot of.
So you're just an old soul, man. I mean, you like the old music that like your parents were younger for.
I guess my dad was less oldies and more old school.
Oh, okay.
So more like Zapp and Rogers.
Yeah. See, like good stuff, man.
He's more into that kind of music.
Yeah.
Old school kind of stuff.
How old is your dad? Is he my age? I'm 46.
He's a little younger. So
okay.
He's, I think, 41, 42.
Okay. So there was a whole thing I'm sure your dad probably enjoys hip hop. At some point he did, I'm sure.
Yes. He
and
liked
for
hip-hop, rap, he liked.
Exactly. So like those of us who grew up with that, liking that old school music, even though it came out like in the 60s and 70s, was cool to us because we started to realize that a lot of these rappers we're listening to are sampling all these old school songs, right?
Yeah.
Like you'll hear like More Bounce to the Ounce. Like how many rappers sampled More Bounce to the Ounce, like exact same beat, and you're like, oh, that's a cool rap song. And then like you start hearing this old school, it's like, wait, what is this? What is this? Oh no, this came out 20 years ago. You know, so I remember when I was in high school, they had those old school CDs that were like compilations, and there was like volume 1, volume 2, and they had all these like, you know, all these old school groups on there. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I mean, I could see why your dad would be into that, you know, because he's around my age. So
yeah, can't say I know too much about what my mom liked. Now she kind of, I don't know. I think she just likes mom music.
Mom music.
I don't know.
She
likes a lot of those modern like Christian country songs that come on. Her and my sister.
They like country.
Like new country, like really new, and a lot of it's like they're Christian songs, and like I don't know, they just kind of sound tacky and like cheesy to me. I don't really care for them.
Like lyrically, or
okay. Or she likes Christian rap. I don't know if she ever liked rap.
Okay.
Like like regular quote unquote rap, but
gangster rap.
Yeah, I don't think she ever really liked all of that.
She probably would. It's just the content that makes her go the Christian rap.
I mean, when
instead.
she was younger, she probably liked it, but I don't know. She doesn't really talk about that, but I know she does like Christian rap, and she likes some of the Christian country.
Okay. What do you think about rap? Are you a fan of rap at all?
I really don't like rap.
Like none? Like there's no rappers that you like?
None of it.
None of it?
I don't care for any of it. I mean, I've heard like some of those rap songs where like I guess their beat can be catchy. Or, you know, they'll have a line in it that's kind of catchy. Do
you have an example of that, or can you not think of one off the top of your head?
I can't really think of one. But well, there was that. So I watched that one rap movie that came out. Man, I was just talking about it with Nathan last night.
Rap movie. Oh, Straight Outta Compton?
Yeah, I watched that once with my friend, and I really didn't care for it. There's a lot of stuff in it. Didn't really like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's old. That's 80s, dude. I grew up on that. That NWA was one of the first groups I ever listened to.
The sound of it, not necessarily any of the content, but the sound of it can kind of sound catchy, but I don't really care for rap. I mean, it's just odd to me. And people are like, but it's like poems with like a beat to it. I'm like, I don't really care for. I like more just flowing melody and song, I guess.
So you're more like singing more than that. Yeah. Because rapping is basically talking. You know, you're kind of talking over a beat in a melodic talking, I guess you could call it, but it's not really singing as much.
And I'm like, I understand, you know, that there is still some talent in rapping. You know, you got to write the lyrics and everything. And all that. Yeah.
And you got to say it in a way that sounds cool.
Yeah, it is a form of poetry, I guess. Mm-hmm. But like, I just don't really. If I want to listen to like music or something, I'm not gonna listen to rap.
Okay.
I know my brother really liked rap, and some of his friends, they all were really into it, especially the old like gangster rap.
Okay.
And all of that. I really could care less.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And there was times where like as a family we'd go down to like car shows or something like down south for like the day or something. And they'd have like some Christian artists rapping some Christian rap and stuff. I'm like, this kind of blows. I don't really like it. And we're all sitting here just listening to some dude literally spitting into a microphone.
Yeah.
I'm like,
all
right. See, I'm just gonna go sit down.
Yeah, I think Christian rap has come a long way. I think, but it's just. I mean, there was a time like you look at like. Because I enjoy Toby Mac, and I know he's he's more mainstream and stuff, and he's not even really rap per se. I mean, some of his songs kind of, but like if you go back in the early DC Talk albums,
I tried to listen to some of that. And
it's just cheesy and it's terrible. A lot of it. I mean, it's just so terrible.
Saved on Spotify.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, these are good to just have. I don't know. Reference back.
Just in case somebody in their 40s wants to listen to Christian rap. But I mean, it's so cheesy, and I understand why a lot of the Christian rap was laughed at back in the day. You know, but there was some good like underground stuff that nobody really knew about that they were rapping about Jesus, and they were kind of more positive in their lyrics and stuff. But I mean, how do you compete with like when people like Eminem are the ones topping the charts and you know a lot of this rap that's not wholesome lyrically, but so much talent, right? Like you know, you say what you want about Eminem. I'm not saying I agree with his lyrics, but the dude's one of the most talented rappers ever to walk the face of the earth.
See, I know a lot of people like Eminem. A lot of Christians I know like Eminem, but I'm like, I don't understand though how they could really enjoy it though, because like to me the lyrics like they're just saying so much.
Right.
It's like
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to. But I mean, for most of, I mean, I'd say most.
I could get the skill involved. You can appreciate the skill. Yes. I mean, what he raps pretty quick and pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
And
the way he
what I've heard,
puts things
like
together and the things
really
that he says. Yeah, it's awesome. But I mean, like for me, I started listening to him before I got saved. So there was no problem before for me. So I became a fan like in the late 90s when he first came out, early 2000s. Like, whoa, this is really cool, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll still, you know, someone will send me something and be, hey, have you heard this new song or whatever? And lyrically, it's kind of hard to get through sometimes, you know? It's like, ooh, you know, it's like to where before I didn't really have that kind of a issue with it. But it's just the talent, man, is just, but that's why I'll enjoy somebody like NF. Who's very similar in a lot of his rapping style, but he's clean, right? You've heard NF, right?
I mean, I really give almost no attention to rap.
Okay.
But, I mean, I know who NF is.
Yeah.
I've probably heard some of his stuff. I couldn't point it out or pick it out.
Dude.
But I don't know. There's, I know a lot of people that I know that enjoy, you know, that are Christians that enjoy rap. They listen to NF.
Yeah. And there's some decent Christian rap now. That's what I mean. That's what I guess is what I was getting to is that it's more, it's evolved a lot.
It's evolved from what it used to be.
Yeah, it's really pretty, competes pretty well with
music.
Yes, exactly. Which is true about the Christian rock of the 70s. It's the same. You just like Petra or Striper, which are bands that I like. But it's just kind of cheesy, right? You could understand why the non-believing world would kind of be like, no, these Christians are a little kooky. It kind of
just seems like a cheesy knockoff.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly what it was.
And now it's kind of become actual, like it's its own genre. Not like standalone, like it's totally not the same. But like, I don't know. It's like its own genre.
Yeah.
Versus before, it's kind of like you're just trying to emulate what we have.
Yes.
You know? And I guess sometimes I didn't like that about a lot of the Christian rap I've seen. I'm like, it just seems like you're trying to emulate this sometimes. And other times it was just really tacky. I'm like, okay, this is...
this is a joke.
And it doesn't help that I didn't like rap to begin with, though. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
My dad liked it. He liked to get CDs and buy it. And so, you know that sound that Zapp and Roger has? That kind of...
Oh, yeah, with the... synthesizers and stuff, right? Yeah.
So he likes a lot of Christian songs that are like that.
Okay.
Artists that make music like that.
Yeah.
And he has CDs and CDs for days and stuff like that. Him and my youngest brother, Jeremiah, they love to just listen to that when they're riding in the truck my dad has.
Nice. That's awesome. But you're like, hey, I'll walk.
I mean, it's not like it'd make me so miserable I just don't want to be there. But I'm just like, oh, it's cool that you're enjoying it. But
yeah.
I don't really care.
Maybe you'll come around someday, man. I'll be praying for you.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Coming around to this chai.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's nothing like the one at Panera. But then again, that one I've had hot chai there. So.
You know, dude, don't get chai at Panera. You might as well just get a cup of hot water and...
I mean, it does taste similar because it is chai, but...
Dude, here's where I put my chai. Starbucks... chai is at the lowest end.
I've never had it there.
It's terrible.
So I guess I won't.
It is terrible. Any place that has syrup as opposed to powder, you're pushing it because the syrup is not as good. And I think Panera uses syrup, and I've had a hot one from there too. But it's the kind of creamier ones that I like better. Like this is Big Train. Obviously, this is the one that me and some other people we know really like. But it's good stuff, man. You've had this before, right? You had to have.
Oh, I've had it
like
hot.
A sip.
I've had it hot.
You've never had a blended one like from Jordan or anything?
No. I mean, unless I'm misremembering.
Okay.
Usually pretty good.
You'd remember. It would have been the best day of your life. It would have been like you would have marked it down as a holiday you'd celebrate every year. This is the day I first had chai. My eyes were open.
I just had a matcha latte. So before I had those like matcha frappuccinos, like all blended sugar and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, these are really good. But I guess it wasn't a matcha latte that like Jordan and her mom.
There is no, and this is a very unpopular opinion right now, by the way. There is no amount of sugar that you could put into matcha that is going to make me want to drink it. It still tastes like lawn clippings. It's the taste. It's like it feels like okay. So when I cut the lawn and then I empty the bag into the green waste, there's that smell of grass clippings, right?
Does it taste bitter to you?
Lawn, it's nasty. Yeah, it tastes bitter, but I mean, even like Addie got me a mix. She's like, "Oh, Dad, you got to try this one. This one's more sweet." I said, "Okay, do me up one. Make one. I'll give it a try. I mean, I'm not going to shut the door on it completely. If you think I'll like it, I'll try it." So she makes it for me, and I'm like, "Oh, how do you guys drink this?" I'm honestly convinced that they don't really like it. They can't. They cannot actually like this stuff.
Conditioning yourself to
it must be, but they're conditioning themselves because everybody likes it's the thing to drink now. Well, I gotta pretend I like it because everybody likes it.
When I was little, my mom would go to like Starbucks and like every now and then we'd get a little something too, and we'd get like the green tea frappuccino. Comes to find out, it's just matcha. Mm-hmm. I guess green tea. It's like a mix. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
I like green tea. I just don't like matcha.
Well, I think they're different. Obviously.
They are a little, but they're similar, right? And people say, "Oh, matcha's just green, like a form of green tea."
What's the graininess in it?
Yeah, it's a terrible form of green tea. Is what it is.
I like it though. I mean, but I've had so much time to get used to it.
Yeah, see, that's two things I got to pray for you for now.
Then see? Come to find out, people, it becomes trendy, and I'm like, well, okay. I don't really know how to order anything at Starbucks. Just throwing down the sizes. Yeah. So whenever we go,
because it's in another language. Why do they do that?
I have Jordan just text me what she wants, so I can just repeat what I'm reading.
That's what I do. The same thing.
And I say it.
Yes.
And I'm like, I sure hope I got the size right.
Yeah. And you feel like an idiot saying it, right? Because these are words you don't say on a normal basis.
Sometimes I just tell them, like, I don't know the size. Can I have a medium? Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. They understand me, so it's like, why even go through the mental gymnastics of putting the weird, just say small, medium, large.
And why is a tall the smallest one?
Yeah, I don't get that.
What? Yeah. It should be called a short.
Tall, Grande, and Venti.
Venti, and then there's a Trenti.
Oh my goodness!
Is
like,
the
why
big
not
one.
put the Grande to be a big one too?
Well,
they
that's
all
what I'm
mean
saying.
big.
And they're all different languages. I think.
Yeah.
I think tall is English, obviously, but then you got Venti's
English,
a different.
Spanish, Italian.
Maybe, I don't know. It's really frustrating.
It's
Really frustrating.
Yeah.
But anyway, see how this happens? I love this. This is what I love about these is we just go whoa, and we just go all because my mind goes everywhere, and then I start talking about all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with where we were. That's why I have this little sheet here to get me back to reality. All right, so don't like rap. We like Johnny Cash, and you like some of the oldies. So when you say oldies, you talking about like Motown, kind of like Jackson 5 and like Diana Ross kind of stuff, or what do you mean?
Not Diana Ross.
No, the Supremes.
Jackson 5. I was like, Supremes.
Okay.
I've listened to them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big, vast mix of stuff.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had a CD that I think was my dad's, or probably his dad's before him. I don't know.
Oh wow.
That was Bretton Wood that I really enjoyed. I listened to that same CD. It was like an album of his, and I just listened to that all the time.
Interesting.
And I had a cassette tape of Mary Wells, and that was like a mixtape, so someone obviously recorded it off something.
Yeah.
I would listen to that also on repeat all the time.
Because you really liked it, or because you had nothing else to listen to?
I think it was a combination.
Okay.
Because I didn't really have anything else, but I really loved it. It was different from just turning on the radio, because on the radio you could listen to music, so I guess I had something else.
Yeah.
But I liked these so much better. And then I ended up getting a phone that had like very limited like internet access on it. It was like a wannabe BlackBerry. That's
Okay.
Cheap little.
It was like a raspberry. Or like a Olala berry, maybe. Some
one of those-
lower berry.
It's like an Alcatel brand. It's like one of those cheap brands you get your kid. I was able to get to YouTube, and I would YouTube some songs, and like I'd plug it into an aux cord that went into the TV and everything, and make the TV play the music.
Okay.
And I'd sit there, but I would like put
Because it had better speakers. Is that what you mean? Okay.
Better than the phone.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would just listen to like maybe the same song over and over and over and over and over until I'm like, all right, time for the next one.
Yeah.
And I knew I probably drove my brother insane. Because I remember, like, not too long ago, I'm like, hey, do you remember when I used to listen to, like, I think I was telling him either Mary Wells or Brentwood. I'm like, remember when I listened to this a lot? And, like, it's one of my favorite things. Like, I remember you listened to it a lot.
Yeah.
We shared a room at the time. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot. You're just there.
Yeah.
He's like, yep. He's like, I couldn't turn it off or turn it down.
That's awesome.
I'm like, man, I don't remember being that much of a Nazi with the music.
So you were hoping to like be reminiscent, like, hey, you remember this, man? We used to love this movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't love it, man.
He's like, I remember you liked it a lot. I'm like, I did. And I'm like, oh, I did.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he had his own little musics that he listened to and stuff, but I guess he was a little more diverse, and he liked, like I said, rap and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so those are some of my, like, earliest memories of
And it's all early.
Music.
Like, it's all old stuff that you like.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting to me.
I don't know. I just liked that time, I guess.
Okay.
Everything were simple. Things were clean. I didn't have to worry about, like,
Right.
should I be listening to this? and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
My parents were, I guess, very lax when it came to, like, I don't know, hearing language and things, I guess.
Okay.
Partly because, I mean, we heard language at home, so.
Right. Right. Like, what's the difference?
But it's not like, I mean, obviously we had, guidelines to what we could listen to and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I don't know, I just liked it a lot better. Like,
Yeah.
Because the stuff had a lot of stuff, and I didn't care for. And I don't know, it was kind of, it had this, like this romantic feel to it. Not like, I don't know, the same sense of the word that people use it for, but, like,
Right.
I don't know. I liked it.
It gives you a feeling.
Yeah.
It's feeling music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you wish you were in those times.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow.
Yes.
It'd be so cool.
Dude, so on my phone, I have a bunch of playlists for all my moods, right? I'll just pop it on, like all these, my favorite songs for this particular thing. And I have one that's just called Feels. That's literally what it's called. And it's any song that makes me feel a certain way. Like we were talking about Hurt by Johnny Cash. That's on there. Because whenever I listen to it, it hits me, right? I get emotional. Sometimes I don't even know why. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the lyrics. It's just the sound, Yeah. And then I have another one called Nostalgic. And those are any songs that remind me of being younger, or riding around in the car with my mom, listening to like Phil Collins or something, some of that like old stuff, Tracy Chapman, like some of these old stuff that she would play on the cassette tapes. Yeah, so it's really cool. I like music that makes me feel something, whether it's energetic. Like I have a pump up playlist also. Like if I'm doing yard work or something, I'll throw that on. You know, that'll just keep me motivated. But any music, I don't care what the genre is, whether it's death metal or it's hip hop or it's, you know, Simon and Garfunkel or something. It doesn't matter, right? As long as it affects me, you know, in some way. And that's what I kind of look forward to. It's kind of what you're saying, right? That's, even though it tends to be older stuff that does that for you.
Yeah.
But that's not really nostalgia, because I mean, I guess it is because you were a kid listening to your parents' music.
Well, for me now it's nostalgia.
Right.
At the time it was kind of like, I just thought it was so neat, so cool.
Right.
It sounded really good.
Right.
And I don't know, something about, just in my opinion, it sounded much better in those days than what the current music at the time was. So I'm like, I just really like it more.
Yeah.
And
is it the time frame too? Like, do you ever like fantasize about being able to go back and live in that time frame? Like you watch movies that took place in the 50s and 60s,
like,
and you're like, oh man,
it would have been to live in those times.
Do you really think that? Is that what you? Is that kind of what you? I remember
one time as a kid, I told my brother, I'm like, wouldn't it have been so awesome to live in the 50s? He's like, as a Mexican? I'm like, well, we live in Santa Maria.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I don't know what the demographics was in the 50s in Santa Maria, but...
Yeah, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you don't have to be such a downer. Yeah. I'm like, come on, man.
So you're thinking like, no, the kind of the way that we are in the world now, but in the 50s, like not like segregated bathrooms and stuff, but you know.
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny, man. As a Mexican, so I assume that's what he meant. He like we would have been persecuted and
I'm sure he's trying to imply that. But I think he was trying to be funny. Like, okay.
Oh man, that's too funny. All right, so can you? So I got Johnny Cash down. Obviously, that's your numero uno favorite.
Every year, it's been my most listened to artist.
Okay, so give me some other artists that you listen to that aren't.
So one that didn't really fit the mainstream of all my other stuff was I used to listen to Brandon Heath quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I still love his. He had this one album called "What If We," I think.
Yeah.
I really.
That's the one with "Give Me Your Eyes" on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just listen to those on repeat a lot.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm just like, man. As a kid, I'm like, man, this really
right
really hits me.
Yeah. So the album for me that does it, I think it was the one that came out after that. It's called "Leaving Eden." No. Is it "Leaving Eden"? Something about Eden.
Sounds right.
Oh, dude, there's so many good songs on there. It's got like Paul Brown Petty was a good old man, or like I forgot the name of the songs now. Dude, it's been so long since I listened to Brandon Heath.
Paul Brown Petty.
Yeah.
I used to
Paul Brown Petty was a good old. Yeah, it was like all these.
It might
like,
even be in my saved on my Spotify.
It's kind of folksy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the songs on that album were kind of similar to like Johnny Cash writing style, where you're telling a story in the songs. There's a character you're talking about, and there was one song on that album, "Final Days" or my final day, or it's about the guy who's on death row, and he's like having his last meal before he gets executed.
I think I heard that one when I was younger, but I think I didn't want to hear it again. It's just like,
dude, it's so moving. It's just so moving. It's one of those ones. It would be on my feels playlist, right? Because it hits me. But yeah, dude, I love Brandon Heath. He played the free show at Midstate one year.
He did,
and we missed it. I didn't hear about it till after. I was like, Arr! And that was like right in the middle of like that album, the second one. They had was it "What If We"? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like right when that came out. I think was it "What If We"? Don't Get Comfortable was the first one. I'm probably getting all these wrong.
I don't remember a lot of it. I mean, I grew up listening just to that one primarily.
Yeah.
As I got older, I branched out to some of the other songs. I thought sound good.
Yeah.
But then he never really was in my main list.
Okay.
But like, there were definitely lots of days where I'm like, I'm just gonna listen to Brandon Heath.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did like a couple of Toby Mac songs.
Okay.
Growing up, there was that one. What is it? "Made to Love."
Oh yeah.
Really liked that one.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's more rap-esque. That's probably the closest I'd get to rap.
Yeah, it's kind of singy rap though, right?
Yeah.
You talked about not liking rap so much because there's no melody.
Yeah.
But like with Toby Mac, it's definitely melodic.
Yeah.
You know.
And then there was another one. Man, it's another like. I think it might have been in the same album.
By Toby Mac.
Yeah. Is it "Lose My Soul"?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one. I would listen to that one a lot too.
Yeah.
And whenever I play those, and JoJo, he's like, "Oh, I'm like, what?
Oh, he doesn't like it?
Because I guess when me and my brother Jacob were in elementary school, my mom would be waiting to pick us up, and she put music on. It's like, that one would always come on all the time. So we were just sitting in the car. It's so hot. It's like, I'm hungry. I want snacks. I'm thirsty.
So it brings up bad memories.
Yeah, he's like, man. He's like, just listen to that stuck in your car seat.
Oh,
like,
that's funny. Boy, that's way back. He's in a car seat.
Well, I mean, they had booster seats.
And he's like, I'm hungry and I'm hot, and this stupid Toby Mac song keeps playing.
And I'm like, what about Brandon? He's like, same thing. He's like, no. But then I saw it because we have each other on Spotify and stuff.
Yeah.
There was this one song that I really liked when I was younger. Not too much younger, but it's called like Girl of My Dreams or something. He's just singing about meeting this girl and everything and asking if, you know, she's taken or if she, like, they'd like to be friends or something.
Who's the artist?
Coffee, Brandon Heath.
Oh, it's Brandon Heath.
Yeah, and everything. And I'm like, I remember listening to that and, you know, being all, you know, hopeful and stuff. And
yeah.
And I see that JoJo had it. I'm like, you know, like,
you're not allowed.
I'm like, no. I'm like, you can't diss all the rest and then pick which ones you want. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, I heard that one first.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how we're like that? I analyze myself that way because I'm like that too. Like, you want to be... Me and Aiden have talked about this with like 21 Pilots. Mm-hmm. Like, they had 2 albums come out that we never knew of, and then when Vessel, their 3rd album, came out, that's where they had like some popularity, right? But it wasn't until Blurry Face that they blew up. So like, me and Aiden like to be the ones to say, oh no, we've been around since Vessel, right? But even then you're like... No, but there's people that were around even before that, right? Like, there's people that were like listening to their first 2 albums going, oh, these guys are great. You know, it's like, we're still not that cool, but we can tell all the Blurry Face people like, oh, you didn't know who they were until Stressed Out came out. We were around a couple years before that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's always kind of cool to be knowing something that is going to be big before it's big.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, I listened to them before they were on MTV or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So, but it's weird. It's kind of, I don't know if it's a pride thing or I don't think it's good. I don't think it's a good quality.
Too, and I'm just like... That I connected with that song. You can't connect with it.
Yeah.
That was my song.
Right. Which is why I think why the whole idea of selling out is so offensive to certain people that love a band, or they're like, oh, this is my favorite band. And then all of a sudden they get huge and then everybody you know likes them.
And it's kind of cheap.
Yes. It's almost like a shot to you. It's like... I showed these guys to you 4 years ago. Why didn't you like them then? No, now you like them because they're big and everybody likes them. You're just a trendy person.
Like cheapening it.
Yeah, you know.
Like, man, but I really connected with it.
Right.
You're just going with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm happy for those bands. Because, I mean, they're still making the same kind of music. I mean, sometimes they totally change their style to get big. And then I think that's really what a sellout. That, to me, that's what a real sellout is. When they're like, okay, this style of music we're playing is not working. We're not making any money. Let's completely revamp our sound and then we'll become millionaires. Then it's like, okay, you sold out. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these bands are playing the exact same kind of music. And then one album just happens to pick up on radio or one song picks up on radio and then everybody's listening to it and then their 3rd or 4th album just flies off the shelves. It goes platinum or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's good for them. Good for them. They're able to do what they love doing and be millionaires doing it. I would do it if it was me. Yeah. Shoot, some major label come up to me like, hey, we want to sign you for your next 3 albums. Okay, let's do it. Oh, but your young fans aren't going to be happy about it. Well, I don't know what to tell them, you know, just listen to all the early albums, I guess, and just pretend like we never sold out, you know, in your opinion. But
it reminds me of, so a lot of Johnny Cash's really, really, really early stuff. It was more like gospel and hymn kind of stuff. And you can tell, like, where the label, like, we can't really market it. And I think it's in the movie, too.
Yeah.
And he ends up switching it up. Then you get all of his other stuff. And then towards, like, the end, a little bit, he comes back into his gospel and stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like seeing that. Like, you could just look at all of his releases and stuff and see how it eventually goes back to it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I really like him as an artist, too.
Yeah. So what do you think about this is digging a little bit into spirituality before we get there. But like an artist like Johnny Cash, who is now passed, right? Based on what you know of him, and like you said, he's got a couple of gospel albums. He obviously talked about Jesus and stuff. Do you think he was saved? Do you think for sure he's in heaven right now?
I mean, I don't know if I could ever be definitive, but I mean,
pretty sure. I mean, yeah, obviously, I'm not saying 100%.
I believe he was saved. You know.
Okay.
I mean, because he obviously had the fruits of change, you know, in his life, the fruits of the Spirit and stuff.
Yeah.
I hope there's some artists where it's like they say one thing, but you don't really see any of its fruit.
Right.
You know, they kind of either will be exactly the same or they're just like a little different.
Right.
But then they're not even like meaningful changes.
Yeah.
Like there was that whole Kanye thing. And
yeah, right.
And in some ways, he got worse. And it was kind of like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's not like I was really ever into Kanye, so it's
I
not
never
like
was
I started
either.
listening.
I don't get it. I don't get the people that say he's one of the greatest rappers ever. But East Coast rap for me has never been my deal. There's a few East Coast rappers that I like, but I'm a West Coast rapper dude for sure. Like most of the rap I enjoy is from West Coast, and that's true of even Christian Mark. Oh yeah, Snoop Dogg, Dre. Like I said, Grobless and NWA, but even like the Bay Area stuff, like Too Short, and like some of that stuff, which I don't know, you probably haven't heard of it.
I've heard it, but
yeah, he just played it at our fair.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Last month or something.
One of my coworkers said that. That's why it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, so and so.
Yeah, he was my favorite growing up, and a friend of mine that listens to this podcast, because I've brought up Too Short before when I talk about my musical early childhood stuff. And they go, "Oh, did you see Too Short's playing at the fair?" I said, "Yeah, I heard." He's like, "Are you gonna go?" I says, "No." He's like, "Why not?" I said, "Dude," I said, "You don't understand, when I talk about that, it's like that was back then."
Yeah, it's not exactly your scene.
Yeah, and he has, the way he used to have albums come out is he'd have like side A would be all clean and side B would be like filthy, right? Like parental advisory filthy, right? Like sexual and profanity and everything else, right? So I have a bunch of songs on my phone that are from side A. Mm-hmm. So I can still listen to him, but if I go to a show, it's like, the lyrical content might be a little much. It's the same reason why I didn't go see Ice Cube when he played a couple years back, because I'm a huge Ice Cube fan.
And everything, yeah.
Yeah, Ice Cube was great. He's one of the ones I grew up listening to also, but
it's like, it's iconic, but then again, it's like past the aesthetics of just, going and seeing Ice Cube.
Right. Yeah.
Do you still really enjoy, the actual content?
Probably
not.
Not.
I understand the, like I said, the aesthetic of you're going to see Ice Cube at a concert.
Right. Yeah.
But if that outweighs the other.
Right. Exactly. So I hope Johnny Cash was saved. I do, because
he did have some songs that were kind of like.
Yeah.
There was one called Cocaine Blues.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, because he had drug problems, right? I mean, and at least he was open about it. And a lot of that came out in the movies and stuff. And it's hard for even a Christian to be in Hollywood like that and survive it. I mean, it just really is. I feel for those people that are. I mean, I think it's impressive when people come out. You got people like Chris Pratt who come out and say, "Oh, I'm a Christian. I'm following Jesus," and they got a lot of people saying that. I'm like, dude, they're going to kill you now. Yeah. Like, you're not going to be able to work. I mean, if you make that open profession like that, especially if you start saying things like, "I'm not going to do any movies where I have to be in a sex scene or I have to use profanity or whatever," Hollywood's going to be like, "Well, then we don't want you then." Yeah. These are the kind of movies we're making, and that's why you see a lot of those guys go into the cheesy Christian movies. Yeah. A lot of the times, these great actors, and they're doing these like low budget B films because they know it's going to be more wholesome, Yeah.
I mean, sometimes though it works kind of well for the actors. Like, what was that one actor? He was in Lord of the Rings.
Elijah Wood.
Sean Astin.
Sean Astin,
He went from Lord of the Rings kind of stuff, and he was in 50 First Dates.
Yeah, with the stutter guy. Yeah,
yeah, he's got the lisp.
Lisp, that's what it was. It wasn't stutter, it was lisp.
And nowadays he's like,
he was so funny in that. That was the best character.
Yeah. He threatens him, and he's like, "What are you gonna do?" He's like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna do it."
Yeah, he was great. He was in Goonies. That's the first thing I ever saw him in. Yeah, as a little kid. Yeah,
he went to from stuff like that, and he's like. No, in the cheesy, I guess, Christian.
Yeah, he is in a lot of them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, see, those things I think about, like, oh man, what if I was an actor and famous? But I'm like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do all that stuff,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it.
No. It would be rough, dude. Mm-hmm. I would have a hard time.
To be put in those scenarios where it's like, either you do this or you just don't got the job. Right. It's like, I wouldn't want to be in that kind of situation.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm sure the fame would be pretty cool.
Right. But you I almost appreciate people that can stand on that, even if it means they're going to lose millions of dollars. Or somebody like Kirk Cameron, who grew up. Do you know who Kirk Cameron is? He was like an 80s actor. He was on Growing Pains, and he was like this heartthrob, and he lived a certain life. He ended up getting saved when he was in his young life, like young adult. I don't remember how old, like early 20s or something. And totally started doing evangelism and all this kind of stuff. Well, then he started only doing Christian movies. Did you ever see Fireproof?
Yes.
So he's the main actor in that.
Oh, yeah?
That's the main character, is Kirk Cameron. But he says, and if you watch in that movie, there's a scenes where he kisses his wife, which is not his real wife in real life. But he made a agreement or something that anybody does movies with him. He says, I am not going to kiss another woman that's not my wife. So if there's any kiss scenes, you have to use my actual wife. So when you watch that movie, when there's any scene that he's kissing his wife, it's always like far away. Like it'll show them in the background because it's him and his actual wife, but they don't want you to see that it's not the actress who's playing his wife.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, wait a minute, why is he not kissing his movie wife? What's going on? That's a different woman. So they do it from far away. So I respect that.
That's pretty cool.
Because you're probably losing lots of jobs.
I heard that Chris Hemsworth does that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't kiss any other actresses.
Interesting.
He kisses his wife. That she'll do like a stand-in. She'll wear a wig or something.
Okay.
Like with the Natalie Portman stuff from horror movies.
Yeah, right.
He kisses his wife.
Okay.
She stands in. So
okay.
I thought that was really cool.
Okay. So what if like you would have a hard time? Like what if Chris Hemsworth's wife was like Filipino or something? It'd probably be kind of hard to like stand in for Natalie Portman.
Yeah, she's like 2 feet tall. Or something.
Yeah, right.
30 Shades Darker.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's what I'm saying. It'd be a little difficult.
Yeah,
but that's I feel like that would be me if I was in Hollywood because people say, oh, it's just acting. No. It's like, yeah, but you're actually kissing someone else. Like and you're married. That to me that's unfaithfulness. You know, acting or not. You know,
it's like I understand sometimes people they kind of. I mean, there's not anything wrong with it, I guess. It's just how they enjoy movies and stuff, or plays or whatever. But they're like, oh, it's just a play. It's just acting.
Right.
Sometimes to me, I don't know. It just seems too much. Like not too long ago, we went to like the theater, a theater, and we saw a play. It was pretty nice.
Oh, like the theater.
Yeah.
Not like the movie theater. Like you're seeing a play.
Yeah.
At this, you got to say it with the accent that way I know what you're talking about. The theater.
The theater.
The theater. Yes.
We were watching. It was a nice play. It was fun and everything. But so the whole time, it was like about a king, and the king was played by a girl. I'm like, it's a play. Okay, sure. You know,
wouldn't that make her a queen?
No. Well, see,
she was playing a male.
Playing a male. King.
Okay, gotcha.
And like even in my head, I'm like, well, we could have just changed it to a queen, but. You know,
surprised they didn't, given all the girl power push these days. Yeah, we don't need a king, just a queen.
Well, nowadays that's like even like, well, a woman could play a man if she wanted to.
Right.
Well, yeah. So I was like, okay, it's a play.
Right.
I'll give them that. But then there's a love interest. I'm like, okay, and the love interest is a woman played by a woman.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, okay, this is all right.
Yeah.
Then there's like a kiss scene. I'm like, okay, that was weird. You know, don't like this. You know. And the first time it happened, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see that really.
Right. Yeah. That's because you're a bigot. Obviously.
I guess, yeah. I guess I am. If those are the standards today.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen just like once or twice, like a few times. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And even sometimes for me, like the kisses in general, like especially if I'm watching it with like friends or something or family, I'm like, okay, it's
kind of uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, but then just that scenario alone is already making me uncomfortable. So I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
And I watched it with the girls too, and I'm like, so that was a bit awkward. They're like, well, yeah, it's weird, but you know, it's a play, and I'm like, I get that, but I don't like it.
You're like, stop making excuses.
Well,
don't make excuses for these people.
But still, I'm just kind of like,
yeah.
All right.
It's just every time there's a kissing scene, you're like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Well, I mean, still, like, when I watch with anyone, like, even my younger siblings or even with Nathaniel, if there's something, like, just a quick flash of something, anything at all, if it's like a kiss or whatever, I'm just kind of like...
You look away.
I can't help it, because that's just how I kind of grew up.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
I mean, first of all, that's great. That's a great quality that you have, because means you're not being drawn into something like that.
Yeah.
You know, because most guys would have the opposite reaction. They're looking for scenes like that. They're looking for sexual stuff in movies, and I mean it's different if you're a Christian, you're trying to follow the Lord, of course, but you know, most guys that are your age that's what they're doing. They're watching that stuff.
And being brought up too, like my parents, if they knew something was going to be in it, so we didn't use any of like the fancy stuff. I guess some of you guys
like filtering, clear play.
So we didn't have that. My parents were just like, oh, something's going to come up, so look away, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of conditioned to it,
right?
And like you said, I don't want to see any of that. And so like there've been times where I'm like with Nathaniel, something will come up and it just makes me like, I just kind of look at him and I'll just look at him. And he's just sitting there and he goes, what are you doing, man? I'm like I don't know. I can't do that.
He's like, dude, you should not be looking at me in scenes like this, okay? This is, I don't know what you're thinking right now, but...
And have you seen that Napoleon movie?
Napoleon Dynamite?
No, Napoleon Bonaparte.
Oh, about
it's
who?
with Joaquin Phoenix. Napoleon
No,
Bonaparte.
haven't seen it yet.
There's some stuff in it where it's like,
okay.
It's like, yeah. But,
Okay. He's touch and go for me, Joaquin Phoenix. It depends on. I love him in some things and other stuff not so much.
I guess I kind of liked him in that Johnny Cash movie.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
I liked the Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I thought he was great in that one. Yeah.
But then there's he's in that Joker movie and all that. But
Still haven't seen it. Yeah.
I tried. I really.
Okay.
'cause
Aiden swears by it.
See,
Aiden
lots
thinks
of
it's
people
great.
I know swear by it. Nathan
Yeah.
swears by it, but I'm like, I just can't. You know,
A little too dark for you.
A little
maybe.
dark and it's just kind of graphic and
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. But we're watching the Napoleon movie. It's got some pretty yucky parts in it.
Okay.
And so on one side, I have Nathaniel. We started out in the theater, just us. Then this like these two ladies. They're a little older than us, but like when something like that would happen, I'm like, I get uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, because first off, I'm gonna look away. And he's like, can you just not, like, zone at me or whatever? It's fine. I can just
He's
be
like, you're making me feel uncomfortable.
And I just kind of looked to the side. But I'm like, now there's just these two women next to me. And I'm like, now I feel extra uncomfortable. So I'm like, I'm going to just stare at you, dude.
Yeah.
I can't do anything else. So something would happen, and I'm like, what's up?
What about just looking down at your feet or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels more uncomfortable. I'm like visibly looking up or down.
Yeah.
I kind of just
because then people notice you and they're like, what is this weirdo doing?
Yeah. So I'm like, I just looked at my buddy. I'm like, sup, dude?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey. And it's like, it's not like he's really looking for those things, you know.
Yeah.
He's really good on all that too.
Yeah.
But it's like,
But he's not affected in the same
I
similar
guess
way
not
you
in
are.
the same way as I
Right.
am, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like,
Which most aren't, I don't think. I've met one other person who is like, my cousin is like that. Mm-hmm. Danny. He's that way. He's always been that way. Like he kissing scenes in movies or whatever. He's like, I feel uncomfortable. This is weird. I don't want to watch this.
It makes me feel weird. And then there'll be times where I'll joke around with Jordan or something. Like the last time we went to the theaters with some of our friends and stuff from church, it was like a Hallmark movie or something like that, based on some books that some of them I've read. And there was like a kiss in it. I look at her, I'm like, what kind of movie did you bring me to? Just being funny. I'm like, all this kissing on screen.
Yeah. It's like, man, I didn't know you were into like rated R movies here. My goodness gracious. Oh man. So.
And it's like, I understand. I'm like, that's not like really bad for a movie.
No.
But it's like, it makes me kind of like.
Yeah, I think kissing is something. Context is important.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's a married couple, I mean, obviously that's something married couples do.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, your kids might be grossed out when and my kids get grossed out if I kiss.
It's like
Bethany
when I see that in a movie, when it's like between a married couple, it's like
Yeah.
a normal kiss or something, I'm less uncomfortable
Yeah.
by that. But it's like some of those movies where they just all of a sudden start kissing each other.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah, but then you take that same concept and it's like a sex scene between a married couple in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm
you're
like,
like, well, that's
can't.
normal, that's fine, that's blessed by God, everything's good, but I shouldn't be getting to see that.
Yeah.
Like the marriage bed is for you two, like not for everyone else to watch. You know, so that's awkward too, of course.
It is.
But
And,
in a different
even
way.
when it's like a married couple and it's like, I don't know, the kissing is a little too romantic, I guess. I'm like, this is not for me.
Right, exactly. Yeah. A little too heavy duty.
If it doesn't look like a wedding day kiss, I guess, I'm like,
Yeah, you're out.
yeah.
Quick peck and that's it.
Yes.
All right, well, we're coming up to our first break, and then we'll really jump heavy into politics. I know we touched on it a little bit already. But before we do, can you give me your top 5 favorite musical artists, bands, etc.? I already got Johnny Cash is obviously your top, but can you give me 4 under that? If you can, it's okay.
Well, there's Johnny Cash, there was
Okay.
the Bretton Wood, there was the
Bretton
Mary
Wood.
Wells.
Okay.
And I like some country artists. I've kind of expanded in the country genre a little bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do love Marty Robbins. I like John Denver.
Oh, nice.
His is like, it's not as country-ish. He's got some country sounds in there, but a lot of it's just kind of just
It's folksy.
melodious.
Yeah, and it's, John Denver's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
He's Rocky Mountain High, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
John Denver? Yeah. Of course, that's probably his most
Rather be in
famous.
Colorado,
Yeah.
living on a jet plane.
Oh, Leaving on a Jet Plane. Yeah, that's a good one.
Then there's one, it's like, Thank God I'm a Country Boy. That one's really like
Okay.
twangy country.
Yeah. See, I don't like that.
I like it's fun. for me, it's really fun. Sometimes just for fun at UPS, I'll just put it on really loud on the speaker. Everyone's like, "Huh?" some of the drivers, when they pull in to back up their trucks to be unloaded, they pop their head out like, who's listening to this? And then they see me and they're like, you're listening to this? Because for like I'm young, I'm also, they expect me to like what a lot of the other guys listen
Right.
to. And they're like, isn't your dad? I'm like, yeah, that's my dad.
Yeah.
And they're getting, wow, like dang.
They're like, is your mom more into this kind of
And
stuff?
I'm like, nope. Like, so it's just you. Like, yep.
You're like, I think I was adopted. I got to get a DNA test to make sure that I'm from them.
There was a swap in
Yeah.
the hospital. Good old-fashioned soap opera swap.
Which is like, I look at you and I look at your parents, and you must be like an even mix of the two of them, because I don't think you look exactly like either one of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never seen pictures of your parents when they were your age, and sometimes that makes all the difference. But
my mom does try to say that I look a little more like her.
like her, okay.
But I'm in my 40s. Like
Maybe, right? Yeah. So real quick, so I wrote down some of your favorites here, and if you can't do this, totally cool, because I'll send you an email or a text later to get these from you, so it can be part of the playlist that's going to go in the episode. Just to give me 2 or 3 favorite songs from each of these people, like starting with like Johnny Cash. Could you name 2 or 3 favorites? It's probably hard because he's your favorite.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
But just pick like 2 or 3 that you really like, maybe, or it doesn't have to be like this is the best song ever.
I like a lot of stuff. I have a lot of this stuff.
We can do this part later too. Like I can send you and you can just let me know. And then I'll just, because the main thing is I just want to put them in the playlist. That way, I don't know if you've looked at any of the episode.
On the bottom you put
it shows all the songs that we talked about. And I always ask people their favorite of this. Because hopefully some people are like, oh, I've never heard that song. And go check it out. You know, it's kind of cool. That's true for me a lot of times. It's like, oh, I never heard this. And then I listen to something, I was like, oh, that's really cool.
So there is a few. There's a really fun one that I like listening to. It's like almost every other day I'm listening to it. It's just a song called "It Was Jesus."
Okay.
It's really funny and
I don't think I've heard that one. That's Johnny Cash?
Yeah. But I guess a real good one would be one called Tennessee.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
I have that one.
Singing about, he's got a wife and they're in Tennessee and they got a nice little plot of land.
You see, those are the ones I like, where it's like a story, and he's talking about, even if it's fictional, it's not even like a real story. It's just like telling that. I call that folk music. I don't know why, but for me, folk music has always been that. It's been, here's a story about Timmy, and he lives out in the woods, and he does this, and he got married, and then he went to war, and then he died, and then his mom cried, and then it's like, that's kind of stuff that I like.
Yeah.
So,
then let's see, what after that? Brentwood. There's a song called the Oogum Boogum song. It's a very groovy kind of song.
Okay.
Yeah.
It better be with that title.
Yeah, I really liked it.
But it doesn't make you dance, unless you're by yourself.
If I'm by myself. Or if I'm just working doing stuff, it gets like a good flow of whatever I'm doing, and I have that music on or something. Then Mary Wells.
I'm not familiar with Mary Wells. I probably know if I heard some of her songs, but the name doesn't ring a bell.
I think one I listen to all the time. I don't know if it's like really like a great song. It's kind of a depressing song. So it's called Two Lovers, and it's about It's only about one person.
Okay.
Because he's like a split personality.
Interesting.
He's a kind person, but he's also a cruel person.
Okay.
So, I liked listening to that one on repeat. But
so
I think as a kid, I didn't really sound depressing it.
But is it like, from her perspective, she's in love with a man who's 2 different people,
and
basically?
she says, she has 2 lovers.
Okay, because he's 2 different personalities.
And then at one point in the song, she goes, both of them are you. And she's talking about how one is sweet and kind and treats her fine, and the other one is like...
a big fat jerk who doesn't go to work.
Yeah. Fitting along with rhymes and stuff. But yeah, it's essentially what it is. I think that was probably the one I listened to the most out of her stuff. And she's got other songs. A lot of them, I guess, are kind of bummers. Okay.
But see, I like that kind of music, to be honest with you. I'm weird like that.
I would listen to them, and now I'm thinking, they were kind of bummers.
Like, depressing music sometimes is what does it for me.
And let's see, another one, like Marty Robbins. Yeah. And there's a song called El Paso. It's also a bummer, but I really like the song. He's got lots of uppity kind of songs, but a lot of... from this one specific album, they're sad cowboy songs. Yeah. And they're not like nowadays, like all they have are whiskey, their dog, and a tractor because
Yeah.
I left them. I don't really care for all that.
Yeah.
But this one's kind of like the album's called Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs, and it's like pretty cool. I sent Jordan the song. She's like, it's so sad, but it is a good song. It's a nice ballad. So yeah, El Paso is a good one.
Okay.
John Denver, I like. The Take Me Home Country Roads.
Okay, that's
not
a
to
good
be
one.
like real mainstream, but
Yeah, that's a great song,
I
though.
liked it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I really started getting into John Denver, so my grandpa really liked some John Denver, and at his funeral they played one of his songs. It's like
Which song? Do you remember?
Any Song.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard
I
it.
have. Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
it's like at the time when like his wife was leaving him.
Yeah,
and,
that's a sad song. Yeah.
yeah.
Is
So
that your grandpa on your mom's side or your dad's side?
my mom's dad?
Okay.
Yeah, so I was really close with him growing up.
Okay.
He used to babysit me like in the way he used to babysit Jordan.
Oh, crazy.
And stuff.
Okay.
So it's been days and days with him all the time, bringing me up kind of when my mom needed a babysitter.
Right.
And I don't think she really just like allowed anyone to babysit me. She was
no.
very cautious.
But she loves you.
Yes.
That's right. I never understand parents that are like, oh, I just met this guy yesterday. Can you watch my kid while I'm at work?
Yeah, it's kind of
You
like...
don't even know that guy.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me?
So
Yeah, I'm the same way, so I understand.
we had lots of memories and moments
Yeah.
when I was little. So
And how long ago did he pass?
shortly after, I think it was my 16th birthday.
Okay.
It was kind of a bit of a little sad one because I remember he called me for my birthday. I didn't answer.
Oh.
I don't know if I was busy or something. Left a voicemail saying, just want to say happy birthday. I love you so much.
Yeah.
If you have time to call. And I heard that. I'm like, all right. When I have him, I'll call.
Yeah.
And I think it was a week or two later, and I got a text from like my dad while I'm at school.
Oh,
It was like,
boy.
oh, your grandpa passed away in his sleep. I'm like,
So it was sudden. It wasn't like he had a disease that was...
well, he didn't have a healthy heart. He had had
Okay.
heart attacks and stuff. But heart failure, I guess.
Yeah.
But
But it was unexpected for you as far as... It wasn't like he was in the hospital and they said
it
he's
wasn't
got
like
months to live.
a process of death.
Right.
It was more just it happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that hit me really hard for
Yeah.
that season.
Do you still have the voice recording?
I wish I did.
Okay.
But I don't.
Because
I had it
Bethany
for a
has
while.
one of her dad that she listens to on, and she does it, and it makes her cry every time she listens to it. But it's
I'm
like,
sure if I had it, I
Yeah.
would probably sob every time
right,
I listened to
right,
it. And I did have it for a while, and then I had like such a dumb phone at the time. I don't know what happened. But
which is
like,
the opposite of a smartphone.
well, it was a smartphone, but it was one of those. At the time, I had one of those. I don't know if you heard of the tablet brand Curio for kids. It was like a kid
No.
tablet brand, so you could put all those restrictions and stuff on it.
Okay.
It was just not the best. Its software sucked. Anyways, it like crashed or something, and I lost everything on the phone.
Oh wow. See, that sucks.
And I remember being just so angry.
Yeah.
Like, man, this phone sucks.
Right.
And I tried to like hotwire the phone to turn it on. My brother had the same model.
Yeah.
And he like opened it up and it attached the charger cord to like in there and touched the
Yeah.
electrodes, and it powered on for a little bit before
Okay.
it finally just fried it. But he got what he wanted out of it.
Okay. Were you able to get some stuff?
Well,
off?
not
he
for
did.
for
Not
his
from yours.
phone.
Oh.
For mine, I no. It
See, I go to Thomas with that stuff. This is
I
probably
knew
before
Thomas
you
at the
guys
time.
knew each other, but yeah, like I've had computers before. My computer fries. I can't turn it on. Nothing. I can do nothing with it. But I've gone to him and I said, dude, you don't understand. I have so much stuff on here that I don't have anywhere else. Photos, Word documents, stuff like from the past, like all this stuff. I can't get it anywhere else. This is the only place. And he's been able to connect to my motherboard and pull all that off for me.
That's really cool.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you saved my life, or whatever. It's so awesome. that he was
Everyone
able to
should
do
have
that.
the Thomas in there.
Yeah, I know, right? Now I'm smarter, and I
Back everything up.
the important stuff I have backed up in a cloud or something to where if my laptop fries, I can get on there. So, but all right,
Too.
Okay.
His grandparents, my great grandparents, some of them only really spoke Spanish.
Right.
So he's got to know something.
It seems like it's a second language for a lot of people around this area specifically. I mean, this is all I know. Is where I live. But I'm still consistently surprised by how many, like when I work at the library, how many people come up and they don't speak any English.
Yeah.
Like none. I'm always like, how long have you been living here? Like,
And
I mean,
I don't want to sound like a bigot or anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think you should at least know some English.
Right.
If, this is your
Right.
community. Because some of them don't try.
yeah.
I mean, I get it. Some of them, I don't know how long they've been here.
Right.
Some of them try,
Right.
But I don't know.
Well, and it's funny how you mentioned bigot, but that is what people would say. Like if I
No,
say,
that's bigoted. I'm like, but we're in the United States of America.
right, I'm like, I don't go to Germany and expect them all to learn English, right? If I'm going to live in Germany, I have to learn German. Because I need to shop, and I need to go places, and I need to talk to people, I need to get information. I'm not going to expect everybody to speak English. But when I say those things, especially around this area, people say, "Oh, that's racist. That's a racist thing you're saying." I'm like, what does that have to do with racism? What are you talking about?
I think there was this one girl trying to say, "Well, that's racist for you to think." I'm like, "How is it racist? I am Mexican."
Right.
I'm like, well, Mexican.
Right.
My family likes to say we're Hispanic because we're not nationally Mexican at all. We're ethnically Hispanic.
So you're from Spain?
Well, I think part of my mom's family, they went from Spain to Texas to California.
Okay.
I don't remember the timeline for it.
But not originating in Mexico, originating in Spain.
Part of the
Spain.
family, at least.
Okay.
And then the other parts, I don't know, maybe from Mexico or something. It's a little less detailed. My dad's side, they're like Mexico, New Mexico, native. Not native, I don't know. They're kind of Mexican.
It's not that important to you, I can tell. You're just...
I mean, sometimes, I guess, because then I can run into people where they're like, I don't know, like one of my buddies, he doesn't listen, but...
He might now.
I don't know, but his girlfriend is Mexican, and she's like really Mexican. She always tries to out Mexican me, and I'm like, I'm not Mexican, dude, so good for you.
Yeah, it's that whole identity thing, and like...
But like, she has so much pride in being Mexican.
That's what I'm saying.
And then she has no American pride, and I'm like...
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like...
Well, which I honestly, in my opinion, I think is equally dumb, and I get in trouble for saying this, but I mean, I think we put way too much emphasis on that. It becomes our identity, who I am. I mean, I think we should celebrate our ancestry. We should celebrate our culture. Absolutely. I am so thankful that we live in America and we got everything here.
The melting pot.
Dude, it's beautiful. I love all the cultures. I love all the foods. I love all the different... It's just so awesome. But that really shouldn't be like so important to who you are. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not that big a deal. Like I'm a bunch of stuff. I don't go around being like,
to an extent, I mean, like being American isn't really all you are.
Right.
I mean, first and foremost, you're a Christian, you try God. But a lot of people, they put a lot of emphasis on their nationality, their ethnicity, their associations, and it's just kind of like, who are you?
Right.
It's like, it's cool that you're, this, and that. Well, like, in the end, I don't really care. Like, I want to know who you are.
Right, because then the problem with all of that is that gets involved into what they call identity politics.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's all about that kind of stuff.
How many boxes do you check?
Exactly, the intersectional stuff, and we're seeing that now with Kamala Harris and all this stuff going on. It's like, well...
There have been a few times where I've had something like that where I have to check a box or something, and it'll just be funny. I'll check black or I'll check white. Black or white.
Check both.
They got this list of things. Then they got Latino, Hispanic, Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm like,
what is Have you ever seen the ones that it'll say Hispanic/white?
Yeah, and I'm like,
what the heck does that mean?
I'm like, huh? But I guess like it doesn't even really make sense because it's gotten to a point in the world. I mean, sure, way back when lands are still being conquered and the colonizing and all that. It's like, sure, Spain may have been primarily white, but nowadays, like all countries, there is a mix of diversity in these countries. So, like, what if I am Hispanic, but I'm not white?
Yeah.
There could be a black guy who's born and raised in Spain for generations.
Yeah. Then you got to check other.
Other.
And then you feel like some kind of weird, like, alien or something,
It's like, oh, I'm a white guy born in Hawaii, generations.
And they all made fun of me.
But I'm a Pacific Islander.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. I wish we would stop making such a big deal out of it. And when I say that again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't.
You shouldn't be ashamed of
be ashamed, exactly, right? Yes, we all came from somewhere.
But to an extent, it's like, I don't know if we should be so prideful.
Yes.
Because a lot of times nowadays, people are very prideful. They have pride in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and what are you proud of? You were born that. You didn't do anything. Yes. Be proud of your accomplishments. To be born something is not an accomplishment. Yeah. It's same with being proud to be an American. You're an American because you were born here. I mean...
with most things, like, you could have a certain level, I guess, of, like, I'm proud to be this or whatever. But it's like, when you allow that to just be like... I'm awesome because I'm American.
Right.
I'm awesome because I'm this.
Right.
Like, you did nothing.
Yes.
You're just born.
Yeah, so I would word it and say, I'm thankful that I live in America. Right? I think we can say that. Grateful. Yeah, we're appreciative. Awesome. I love my country, all that. But to be proud to be American is like, that doesn't make sense.
Blessed to be an American.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then there's others that would jump in and say, oh, but look at the way the country was founded, and it was all, a bunch of white people coming over and killing everybody and conquering. And it's like, yeah, but that's every culture and society from the dawn of creation.
A lot of people try to be like that with the Native Americans and the colonists and stuff, like stolen land. I'm like, hey, it's just a more advanced nation conquering a less advanced nation.
Yes.
It happened worldwide.
Yes.
Not just to different races. I mean, Europe, it happened all the time.
Right.
You think the borders have stayed that all through human history? No.
Well, and before the Europeans came here to what we now know as America, the Native Americans were doing the same thing. Exactly.
The same stuff. I mean, with less advanced weapons and stuff, but I'm sure if they had it, they'd do it.
Exactly. And of course, we can get into the discussion of whether or not that's right to conquer people's land and to all that. But I don't even get that far with people usually, because the whole point is you can't be so upset about what the Europeans did and be so ashamed of your country because they paint out this picture like all these peace-loving Native Americans are just running around eating corn, and all these white guys from Europe came over and just started killing and raping everybody and conquering.
A lot of times they don't acknowledge it. That stuff was all going on before they got there.
Right.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
When it comes down to like all the reparations talk, it's like, you were never a slave.
Right.
I never owned slaves.
Right.
So why am I making reparations to you?
Right.
We're both in the same boat.
Yes.
It's like, regardless of what happened, generations back,
right,
we're at the same point.
Yeah.
I mean, hey.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I personally wronged you, yes, I would like to make that and apologize and stuff.
Right.
But like, we didn't do anything to you. You didn't do anything to us.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that seems to gain any traction at all when people start talking about it, because I mean, most people I talk to are not in favor of that. Even people in the black community that I know. That I'll ask them, well, what do you think about this reparations thing? I think that's the stupidest thing. And they'll say exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Why should you, they'll point at me and say, why should you have to give me money when I was never a slave, my grandparents were never slaves, and you or your grandparents were never slave owners? What does that have to do with you? Yes, there was an injustice done hundreds of years ago. Yes, we all agree on that. But the fix is not to make people now.
They also keep trying to go back to bringing it up again. It's like, we've grown past it. Why do you keep wanting to, keep it up?
Well, then, okay, so let me ask you then. So what do you think about those that say that today, as we sit here, that America is, not was.
Fundamentally racist.
Yes. Or systemically, right, is usually the word that they use. Yeah, they'll say it is systemically racist.
I think it's ridiculous. The only things that seem to be racist, I mean, obviously there are things here and there. I've run into things here and there where someone was a little racist, but it's far, what is the saying? Few and far between. I always get it backwards.
Yeah, far and few between?
Yeah, I always say far and few between.
Okay.
Yeah. See, now I don't know. Now I don't know.
I think few and far between is usually the correct way.
But it's like, those kinds of things are, like I said, few and far between. And
well, like can you give a specific example of something that happened to you? Or
recently, I think we were talking about this topic one time at like a men's thing or something. We were just casually talking about it. I'm like, ordinarily, I think America's not racist or fundamentally racist or any of that systemically. But I mean, I remember one time I was like in junior high maybe, and we go to McDonald's. And it's when, like, obviously a crowd of a certain demographic were in there that don't speak English.
Okay.
And we go in there, and they got this old white lady cleaning one of the drink machines, and she's obviously looks visibly irritated. And I'm just standing off. I got my cup, and I'm just waiting for her. I don't want to get in this lady.
You're trying to get a refill, but you don't want to get in her way.
Yeah, so I'm just standing back, and then she kind of looks behind, and then she does and she starts muttering to herself, and she says something along the lines like, another one can't but she's speaking audibly at this point. Like, can't they see that I'm working or blah blah blah, or saying something. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for you to finish cleaning.
And then she probably was like, oh, you speak English?
And she's like, just a quick wipe down and leaves. And I'm like, okay. That's probably the most I've ever really experienced, I guess.
And it's almost always an older person, right?
Yeah.
I think even among the older people in our country, even that is a small minority of them are racist. But it seems like actual racist people tend to be old. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, we've progressed, we've grown.
Yes.
We're coming out of this. And that's why when people say, oh, it's just as bad today as it was before the civil rights movement. I said, you realize that you couldn't go in certain bathrooms or restaurants before the civil rights movement?
Certain neighborhoods.
Right. Are you saying we're that bad now? Really?
Yeah. And I'm sure this lady, though, after that, she obviously had a conscience about it. Like, man, I really shouldn't have said that.
Right.
She had a conscience versus back then, they could care less.
Yeah.
Way back when. But that's not at all what the nation we're in now.
Right.
For even there even being a social justice movement shows that we are obviously not where we were.
Yes.
Because back then, I mean, the first thing to really happen was the civil rights movement going on. Right. You know?
Well, and the one thing people bring up, which I think is valid, is for 8 years, we had a black president.
Yeah, we did.
So if the country is systemically racist in a population where black people are what,
the highest 12 office you could hold in the land?
Yes. Mm-hmm. When I think what is the African American
popular either
in the African American population is what, 12%, something like that of the country.
They're in the minority.
Very minority. Yeah. I mean, that's a low minority. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to try to tell me that it's only the black people that were voting for Obama, there's no way he wouldn't have got elected twice.
Whatever the reasons being, I'm like, he got elected.
Right.
So you can't say it's down to the core systemically.
Yes.
Racist.
And that's my issue, is systemically, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm never going to claim that there's no such thing as racist people.
Yeah.
There is always going to be racist people. The point of the
story that I gave was like, there's always going to be someone along the line.
Exactly.
But, and even then, it's not like they're outspoken about it. And they're not going to seek out to be racist. Right. They just have that little chip. Yeah. You know?
And I've heard there's more of that. Like if you go back east or in the South still. Like obviously here in California, we've grown up in, even I have, as I'm 20 years older than you. I've grown up to where I have been around all different kinds of people my whole life. So I don't really notice it. It doesn't, it's never been a thing for me,
It's funny, a lot of my Hispanic friends, I guess, we joke about the most racist people we've experienced against Hispanics are other Hispanics. I mean, I mean, the stories of my great grandpa and stuff. You just say things like demeaning about, the quote unquote lesser Hispanics. Right. Because they're different, just like with Asians, they're different,
They're with everybody. With white people, it's like, oh, they're white trash. Yeah. I'm not like them. They're white trash,
My mom would give stories about when she was a kid hearing the things he'd say, and I'm like, yeah. He was Hispanic. But, but then again, also, he was like, it was his time. Yeah. His era that he grew up in and stuff.
Yeah. Are you a fan of, do you listen to stand-up comedy at all? This is an old one.
I used to a lot more.
Okay. There's an old one from like the 90s, I think, of Chris Rock. It's called Bigger and Blacker. I think that was the name of it. He's got some funny stuff in there. But there's one whole thing. He's like, man, he's talking about racism. And he's like, man, I grew up in this country my whole life, and there's this racism. Yeah, racism is this. He goes, but you know who the most racist people in the whole world are? Old black men. He says, they'll be real nice to your face, but as soon as you walk away, oh, stupid cracker this, and they'll start talking. It's just like, but when they're in front of you, they're like, oh, yes, sir, whatever. It's like they're very nice, And I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, that was his perspective as a black man, But yeah, it's just,
well, even with like not saying it's like okay, I guess. But like between me and my brothers and like my cousins, we call each other beaner. But we're not gonna, go up.
Right. But you could get away with that more than like maybe I could. Not that I would ever want to call somebody that, but I would get in a lot of trouble if I did that.
My buddy, so he's a white guy. I think he's got a small percentage. I always thought it was weird when you start calculating things as percentages. But
I'm 17% Eskimo.
He's a little bit Mexican, and so he and I growing up, I'd give him a lot of leeway. He could say certain things, and I'm like, dude, I know you're cool,
right?
And when he first started working, he doesn't work there anymore, but he worked at UPS with me. He made some like Mexican jokes.
Yeah.
And dude, the stares he got, and I pulled him aside, like, dude, like, no.
You're like, you're going to get killed.
Like, they are not me. Yeah. They don't know you. They don't like you.
Oh, how funny.
Like, they for sure don't like you now.
Yeah.
He's like, what did I say? I just made a joke.
Right.
I'm like, they don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
And one of them's like, hey, you can't say that, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, buddy, you don't do that. He's like, I thought we were cool. I'm like, you're cool with me.
Right.
Like, no, with them.
Right. Did they get over it? Did they start to like him eventually?
They eventually realized he's just a goof. He was just a goofy kid who just was funny.
Just trying to be funny.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, you're cool, man.
Yeah.
You're not,
Right.
So he's like, oh, man. He's like, because all the stares, and he started getting all red and sweaty. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, funny, guys.
See, and that's a scary thing is you need to really know your audience.
Yeah, before you just go.
You got to be careful, especially these days, because people are so offended. Offense happens so easy now. Like that's why all these stand-up comedians are getting canceled because you can't make certain jokes about certain communities and stuff. And
there was a thing at work where, at my day job, our manager, so it came up on our work anniversaries, me, my brother, and another coworker. All three of us happened to be Mexican, and he wanted to make a little, like, congratulations for these three guys for, you know, making their year or whatever, their anniversary again. And he wanted to put some little goofy thing and put mariachis on there. And he's a white guy.
Yeah.
And
isn't that funny how that changes things?
Yeah.
Like you could reverse it, and if it was a Mexican dude doing that, there'd be no problem at all.
He's like, I thought it'd be funny, but I didn't want to like be like he's like offending you or anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, you think you'd be offended? I'm like, I think the word being offended is overused.
Yes.
I'm like, sure, someone might be made a little uncomfortable. I wouldn't.
Right.
I'm like, but.
Right.
It's not something that truly, genuinely offends me.
Right.
And like I take offense to it. You know, I'm like, it's just, even if it's just a poor joke, I'm like, okay, it's not that funny.
Well, that gets into the identity thing again, right? Is that, and I've said this before, like if I'm in a stand-up comedy club and I'm listening to a comedian and he's up there and he's just cracking jokes about middle-aged white women left and right, right? Me and Bethany could be sitting there just laughing our heads off, think it's the funniest thing in the world, even though they're talking about us, middle-aged white people, right? That's us. Joke, 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 joke. Totally funny, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not part of my identity that I care so much about, right? But if he looks at my wife specifically and starts making jokes about her personally, now I'm going to be upset.
Because then he's digging at
Because now you've made it personal,
Yeah.
right? But the problem is with a lot of people is that it's personal to them when you attack my identity as a certain person.
It's usually best when it's general and generalized because you're not targeting a person. I mean, if you're targeting a people group.
But that's a problem now. That's what I'm saying. That's a problem now.
But even then, when they do, like, I guess, target a people group, the stereotypes are obviously based on some little kernel of truth.
Right.
Of course, they exaggerate it a lot of the time. But it's like, you can find some humor in it because you know it's based on some...
Well, but that's why, like, let's say a Mexican comedian can make jokes about stereotypical Mexicans, and Mexican people will think that's hilarious. Because, like, oh, he's so right, he's so right. But if it was a white guy making those same jokes... it would be taken as offense.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, it's so funny. It's totally true. He'd be like, what's this white guy talking about us like that for, right? And he'd be get canceled. He'd have all kinds of hate mail and everything else.
It's so funny, though, because a lot of the other ethnicities of comedians, they can all joke about white guys and their own ethnicities. White guys can only joke about white guys.
Right.
Or whatever box they check.
Right.
You know, that's it.
And why is, I mean, I guess when I say why is that, what I mean is why isn't the white community getting all upset? I mean, I can speak for myself. I know for me, it's because I don't care if they attack that part of my identity. It doesn't bother me. Like I said, if they make it personal.
Well, see, I've heard white comedians where they reference their minority friends. I don't know the term. That sounds weird saying it like that. You know? But they reference their minority friends and they give stereotypes on their friends. And I'm like, well, that's so true. Because say the white guy's friend is a Mexican. He gives like a very hard stereotype of a Mexican.
Right.
Like, I think that's funny.
Yes.
Most people should be able to just laugh at it.
I agree with you, but it seems like a lot of people aren't.
I don't know why they're just not okay with it.
Because they're letting
looking for a problem.
Well, they're letting that identity become such a crucial part of them that they feel like it's a personal attack. You see what I'm saying? They're making it a personal attack, even though it's the group that's being attacked in a joking way, not the person.
Yeah.
He's not attacking John over here. He's attacking the group that John identifies with in his heritage, right? And that becomes so offensive. And again, I can only speak from my own understanding. I don't feel that way when any of those groups that I'm identified with, whether it's a Christian, whether it's a white guy, whether it's a middle-aged guy, whether it's a bald guy with glasses, whatever. Like when people make jokes about a group that I might be connected to because of what I look like, I'm like, that's funny. I don't think it's offensive at all. But I can't sit here and tell somebody else, you shouldn't be offended. I mean, that's not my place either. I can just speak broadly and be like, I think it's a little ridiculous. I think you're taking it a little more serious than you should be.
Well, then also, too, on top of it, it's just, I mean, nowadays, the society kind of, like, glorifies victimhood mentality. It's like, there's something cool. It's like, you're not cool unless you've been a victim.
Right,
you know?
right.
Because everyone wants to share and talk about some kind of time they were a victim, like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
have sympathy for me.
Right.
It's like people
Yeah.
just seek it too much. Like, just get a life.
Yeah.
Have something actually interesting about you to share.
Right.
You know? You don't need to just resort to, oh man, you know, I went through this. This guy totally was so racist and bigoted because he wanted me to move out of the way because he was carrying something hot in his arms, and, you know, and he wanted me to move. And I felt offended because it's a white guy yelling at a Mexican to get out of the way.
Right.
It's like,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Right. I'm with you for sure. All right. So, one last thing before we move into spirituality. We've nailed racism. We've nailed identity politics. We've nailed COVID, right?
Yeah.
We're hitting it, man. So, politically speaking, we're in a very interesting time right now. So I would be
We are.
I would be at a loss if I didn't at least mention this. Kind of get your thoughts on what's happening. Like things that are happening right now have never happened in the history of our country. We have a current vice president, who's being put in place to run for president.
She wasn't
elected.
nominated.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Is she just kind of sliding in there?
For both that and to the vice presidency, she wasn't really
I know.
voted for.
I know.
Anything. No one wanted her.
I know. That's what's so funny, that the country is now flopped and she's the greatest thing in the world, apparently. I'm like, you guys didn't like her 5 minutes ago, but now that she's not Trump and she's running against Trump, now she's Mother Teresa all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And we need to worship her. And it's like, so, I mean, what are your thoughts on any of that? I mean, there's a lot of places you could go with it, but.
Well, just I guess to lay a base layer on it. So I'm not like a typical Republican, I guess.
Okay.
I'm more like, I think I've explained it. I'm a Christian first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm a Christian, I do have values that adhere to, you know, the Word and God's character.
Right.
So that naturally lands me to be more conservative upon the political scale. I
Correct.
have conservative morals and ethics. And that does make me tend to vote Republican.
Right. Right.
But I will say that I'm not really a fan of Trump.
Okay.
He is not my first pick or choice. I mean, the first time around, I mean, yeah, it was really
Right.
cool. Like, yeah. I'll vote for
So you liked him, like in,
Yeah.
in
16?
2016, yeah.
Obviously, I couldn't vote at the time. But
Right. But if you could, you would have
I
voted
could,
for
I
him?
would have, yeah.
Now, is that because he was going against Hillary and you didn't like Hillary, or is it because you actually saw Trump and you're like, I like
I
this
really
guy?
didn't like Hillary, but
Okay.
not just because of that, but because he had a lot of points that he brought up that really agreed with like mine and my family's,
Okay.
you know, values and
Yeah.
really stood up for the things that were important. But as time's gone on, it's like he doesn't really, and he self proclaims to be a Christian and stuff. Well, I think more so because he had to.
Right.
He was backed into the corner.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things. I'm American, I'm a Christian.
Yeah,
It's like-
but it's like they kind of said you need to check a box.
Right.
It was like, well,
Right.
I'm not Jewish. I'm
Yeah.
not a Muslim.
Yeah.
So
Well, none of us really believe he's an actual Christian. I mean, I shouldn't say none of us. I'm sure some people
I'm sure
do.
people
but
do, but I mean, I can't even necessarily say that I don't believe he's a Christian, but he definitely does not live a Christian life.
Right.
And that's where I'm kind of like,
Which goes back to the fruit thing you were talking about with
Yeah.
Johnny Cash.
and it's kind of like he doesn't live the way I would want a leader who's representing, you know, us, or even representing as a Christian to be in office. The way he behaves personally among people and socially,
Yeah.
things he says, the things he does, the kinds of just
Yeah.
the personality stuff.
Okay.
I really don't like.
Right, which is, I think that's most of us.
Yeah.
Right. They're the people on the far right that are like, oh, Trump's the greatest thing ever. He's a wonderful person. He's great. He's awesome.
and I'm kinda
like,
like-
you need to have your head examined.
I'm like, no,
Right.
it's not. And especially all these scandals and stuff that come up. It's like because he lived a life that wasn't above reproach.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't live a blameless life. So I'm like, these things are going to come up to him because he lived that way. Where it's kind of like, did he?
Right.
I'd much rather have a candidate who lived a life where he isn't going to have so much room to be accused for these things. But of course, as a Christian, you're always going to be accused of something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you can just look at the character and be like, no, he obviously didn't do that. Versus Trump, it's like, did
Right.
you?
Right.
I don't think you did. But
Yeah, those that are in denial that he did certain things. Again, to me, that's the people on the far right. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he did certain things. We
did
need to come to
something.
terms with that. Mm-hmm. And the question that I ask myself is that thing he did something that's going to affect the way he runs the country?
And most of the time, it's no.
Right.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people say, yeah, but I can't let his personal life is what matters the most to me.
And they're like, he's gonna like totally run our country into the
Yeah.
into the dirt because he's like really ignorant and he's dumb and he's big mouth.
Which is, he's not ignorant at all, obviously.
He's actually pretty intelligent.
He's very intelligent, yes.
You can see in his older clips when he's young and how well he was,
dude.
Level-headed he was.
And even now, as old as he is, to be still so, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
I was trying to say viral. That's not the right word.
He's a good orator.
Yeah.
I guess.
He's the opposite of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
He's very much alive. He's full of life, as opposed to Biden.
Speaking of him, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Is he dead?"
Yeah, I know, as people are saying, but I don't think he's dead.
Just Lane, not my first choice and whatnot.
Yeah.
I would have voted Ron DeSantis if he stayed.
Thank you.
It would have been my choice,
dude. He's the best of all time.
He was personality-wise, he was a good guy and everything.
Yes.
A little rough around,
and what he's doing in Florida,
great stuff. You know, I would love for a lot of that to be.
And he's younger. You know what I mean? He's still got his cognitive abilities and everything else.
And not that Trump doesn't have cognitive abilities.
No.
But how much longer does he?
Correct.
But
I mean, because even if he's cognitive and he's still got his functioning capacity right now, he is older. He falls in that demographic we were talking about. The flu could kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah,
it really could.
And I mean, not saying it does, but I mean, it could come down to a point where it's like he could kind of just be like, "Well, I'm at the end."
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And he would she'd start to let go of things a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really need to be so passionate on it because it will affect how you are in your personal life is going to affect how you do things.
Yeah.
But Ron DeSantis, young, stuck to it, stuck to his guns, you know,
That's
signs off some of these things, which some people are like, I don't know, I think he was a little too strong with it, but I'm more of the opinion, well, the quote-unquote left would go that extreme. Why don't we go that extreme on, you know, the good stuff?
Right.
You know, because... You know, they're going to seize the power to do these things.
Yeah.
Why don't we?
Well, it's like always a little tough on that. Yeah, we need that. Because we've fallen so far this way. We need somebody who's going to bring us back to where we were and say, no, we're not going to stand for this. No, I don't, you know, not that I don't care. I don't want to be like uncaring.
Yeah.
But I feel like we almost have too much compassion.
We're too like, well, if we do this, they might do it. It's like, they're going to do it anyway.
Right.
So just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so this, something else kind of fascinating, like, so Harris comes in. She's been, 2-3 weeks now? For how long it's been.
Like
so it's a very short time.
2 to 3 weeks, yeah.
Isn't talking to anybody, no interviews, no nothing, right?
She sucks at it.
I know.
She can't do it.
I know. But the Republicans got to push that. Because she can't just sneak in there.
Well, just recently, Trump goes and releases, like, we're going to have debates.
Yeah.
And then
he wanted to do 3 and
he flipped it on her because she was trying to say, he's too scared to debate.
Yeah.
He's like, I will. He's like, no, you need to agree. And like, these are my terms.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're the chicken.
Yeah.
So now she has to kind of...
Yeah.
I don't think she's agreed to all of them, though, yet.
Only one.
Yeah.
She said she'll only do the one.
Yeah.
The one that was already set up for Biden to do.
Yeah.
She said she'll do that one. But Trump was like, I want to do 3 debates on 3 different networks over the course of September.
Because she's thinking that, Biden's done half the work. I could just resume right
now.
And he's like, no, you're a new candidate.
Right.
We need to talk.
But so what's interesting, though, is like how her popularity, like they're showing even the polls.
Synthetic.
It is. I hope so. Because, dude, when she first got in, I was happy. Honestly. Because I'm like, there is no way. We were just joking
about that before it actually, we were like at church or something. We were hanging out on the grass talking about like, well, if we want Biden to stick in it, he's not going to win.
Because he's got no chance.
But if he's going to give it to anyone, give it to her.
Right.
She's not.
But then you see the polls like change, like what? But she's saying things that she hasn't said. She's switching around her views, right?
Yeah, she's kind of backing. Well, I don't know if she's switching, but she's like definitely backing up a bit, being less extreme in her views. But
there was a I didn't look into it yet. I probably should have before we met today because I knew we were probably going to talk about it. So I still need to look into this. But I got a news update yesterday about something about Trump's plane needing to have an emergency landing somewhere, like in Montana or something. And again, haven't looked into this, no idea why. It could have been somebody else on the plane or whatever. But I started thinking to myself, if Republicans are getting worried because they're viewing a Kamala Harris presidency as like the worst thing that could ever happen, and they're seeing her poll numbers right now, I wonder if any of them on the inside are going to try to pressure Trump the way they did Biden. Be like, hey, can you back out and let's get someone else that we think can beat? Because the hatred for Trump is so strong in so many people.
Literally anyone other than Trump.
I said this when he ran against Biden. I said Biden could have been a bag of dog crap. And so many people would have voted for the bag because they would have been like, well, he's not Trump.
Yeah.
Anything but Trump, right? I will vote for anybody but Trump. And I think that's why so many people are pushing Kamala Harris, because I even see people on Facebook and Instagram and these places where they were never fans of Kamala Harris, but now they're talking about her like she's the greatest thing.
Harris.
I know.
Harris wasn't a fan of Biden.
Yeah, she called him racist.
And he picks her because she's diverse. She's a diverse.
Yeah. Right. DEI.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That
right.
stuff.
Right. Which is which why I don't know if you saw the clip of the interview that Trump was giving with was it the National Black Female Reporter or something? I forgot the exact.
I think I saw a small.
But she asked that question: do you think that Kamala Harris sits right now as the vice president because she's black?
Yeah.
And that's where Trump... Yeah, well, we all know that. I mean, Biden even said it. Yes. But Trump answered in kind of a weird way, I thought, where he started talking about it. Is she even black? Because back when I first knew her, she was claiming to be Indian.
That's what a lot of the people are saying now, too.
And all of a sudden, she became black.
She's claiming more to be black now.
Right.
When before it was more she was Indian.
Right.
Jamaican. I don't know if
Well, that's the black side.
Yeah.
So her dad was Jamaican, and her mom, I believe, was Indian.
But she grew up in Canada too.
Right.
And she went to like a posh school, and so it's like she doesn't really fit any of the stereotypical demographics of African Americans.
Well, and it's political moves because she's going to appeal in whatever way she needs to appeal to who she's talking to.
Like, I'm sure if I were to run for something, whoever would be advising me would be like, you need to really run on you being Mexican.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I don't speak Spanish. Like, well, you need to learn, or you need to start talking a little certain way here.
Right.
Try to relate. And I'm like, well, that's not really me. But, you know, she obviously is trying to run with that.
Which to me, I see it as phony.
Yeah.
To me, it's phony. If I was running, which I never would be, but if I was, I would appeal to everybody the same. I would be like, look, this is who I am. You want to know about my background, how I grew up, ethnicity, all that? Okay, fine. We can talk about that. But that's got nothing to do with how I plan to run the country. I'm gonna make things like actually equal to the best of my ability. People aren't going to be viewed by their ethnicity or their color. But then some people get mad at me about that. Well, no, you got to be viewed by this because we need to be No, let's make it so people are judged on their character.
See, that's
not on what they look like.
Used to be.
Yeah.
And there was this thing I watched a while back. It was talking about when America started shifting towards the more how they view and how optics are and stuff. It was around the time of Kennedy versus Nixon.
Yeah.
And they were on camera for a debate. And Nixon didn't want to wear makeup because he's like, I'm not a girl. I'm not going to wear makeup. And Kennedy wore makeup for the TV.
Yeah.
And Nixon looked oily and shiny and not great.
But real.
Yeah. And Kennedy's points didn't really match up to what Nixon was saying, but no one heard what Nixon was saying. They saw how he looked and how he wasn't ready.
Isn't that funny how we're wired like that?
Yeah. And so they obviously went for the young, handsome-looking dude on camera.
Yeah.
And went with him.
Yeah.
So
crazy. Yeah. But they were somewhat right about Nixon. I mean, he did turn out to be, shiesty.
Yeah, a bit. I mean,
so did JFK in some ways too, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, aren't all politicians? I mean, really? Until you go back in the day of like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and some of those guys, maybe.
Well, back in those days, a lot of them were so humble too. George Washington's like, I don't want to be your leader.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're going to make you be the leader.
Yeah.
He's like, well, then you better give me limits then because I don't want to be here forever.
Right.
And because, but nowadays it's like they really try to be in there as long as they can.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I get it where it's like, because there's no one else. So Trump's reasoning is because there's no one else who's going to do it. So I got to do it again.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like...
Yeah. It seems like their point and focus is to get into the presidency more than it is to want to help the country. Well, like, I just want to get it. I just want to be able to say I was the president. Well, who cares? It's not about you.
See, that's what I liked about DeSantis, too.
Yeah.
He wanted to get the job done. And he ended up dropping out of the race. He's like, well, the polls aren't going to go for me to do it. And I don't want to take any more of people's money from my campaign.
Yes.
So he's like, and I need to go back and continue running my state.
Right.
Instead of, being out here on the campaign trail. It's obviously not looking like it's going to work.
Yeah.
And he bowed out.
Yeah. Right, which is the gentlemanly thing to do.
Versus, I don't know if Trump would have done that.
No.
He probably would have been a bit... I mean, he was attacking Ron DeSantis,
He's way too prideful. Yeah, there's no way. But, I mean, look at what they were attacking Ron DeSantis with. The only thing, and this is what I knew. I was like, he's obviously a good candidate because all they could attack on him was the way he walks. Remember they were making fun of his shoes or something? They said, what does he have, like little shoe things? Or you look how funny he walks. I'm like, if you're running for office and all they can do is make fun of your shoes, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? Because if they can't bring up dirt on you, or they can't tell you that you slept with a porn star or anything like that, it's like all they have is they make fun of your shoes. You're golden.
So I really liked him as a potential candidate.
Me too. And I don't think he's gone. I think he'll be
he's
back.
still got a future.
He's still young.
I mean, he's still obviously doing some good work in Florida.
Yeah.
That whole "don't say gay" bill.
Oh my gosh.
That whole lie was ridiculous.
Yeah. But he called him on it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was beautiful. And
He's like,
called
"Did you read it?"
Yeah. And he goes, I want you right now to bring up the bill and show me in there where it says that. Mm-hmm. Show me where it says "don't say gay." Show me that.
You know, no one acknowledged him calling him out on it either. They just stopped.
Right.
They just stopped saying it.
Of course. Because they have no answer because he's right. Mm-hmm. You got the whole country. I know people that still say that. Yeah. Oh, I didn't like Ron DeSantis because he started that "don't say gay" bill. Did he? Yeah. Are you really that duped that you're believing all these lies? He did not start anything called a "don't say gay" bill.
People are fooled by all this.
Yes, because they don't research. Mm-hmm. And I always tell my kids, if you learn anything from me, do your research. Mm-hmm. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's me talking to you about stuff. Check it out. Yeah. I said, even if I'm telling you about Jesus or I'm telling you about the Lord.
That's the unfortunate thing about, too, nowadays with politics and things in general, scriptures and stuff. Information is so easy to get, but the right information isn't easy. So you just get what you're given.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't, check to see how genuine it is.
Yeah. It's almost like they don't care. All they want to know is, does this align?
They act like they care. Yeah. They don't want to seem like they're dumb. They just go with the flow. So they act very passionate, but they're passionately wrong.
Right. They go with the flow of what they want to be true. Mm-hmm. Right. So they jump on to whatever news site is telling them what they want, and they just pretend like it's true. They don't have to research it because it's what they want.
And then you get that hive mind because then everyone else is starting to agree with that. And if you don't do it, then you're wrong and you're horrible. You're a bad person.
Right.
You don't want to be a bad person.
Yeah.
So go with it.
Well, that's why I appreciate somebody more recently. I've been watching more of his stuff, but like Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen Charlie Kirk?
Yeah.
Dude, I love how he just spits statistics and facts. Mm-hmm. He goes to these college campuses and they're like, oh, and this and blah, 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 blah. He's like, actually, no, this is a statistic. Mm-hmm. And he quotes it for him right out of his head. And they go, that's not right. And he goes, no, check this. And he will give the source. Mm-hmm. No, go look it up yourself. I'm not lying to you.
Well, because they want something to be right so much.
Yes. Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense to me.
There was a guy I used to watch a lot more, but I don't know. I didn't really care for a lot of the extra stuff. I don't know if you've heard of Steven Crowder.
Oh, yeah.
So
Louder with Crowder?
Yeah, I liked a lot of his stuff, and he was funny.
Yeah. Well, he's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Originally.
He did a lot of the Change My Mind stuff where he'd go out there and he'd give him statistics and citing stuff, and he'd have conversations with them. But more of his content is kind of gone a certain way where I'm like, it's a little more vulgar.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't really care for that.
It gets more into shouting and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes every now and then I'll watch an old clip of his Change My Minds where he's more civil and clean.
Yes.
I like those things.
Yeah.
And Charlie Kirk was good with a lot of that. And a lot of those old YAF Foundation things where they have the speakers going up what is his name? Dinesh D'Souza used to go up.
Oh, yeah.
Talking.
Yeah. And, he's good too.
Those times where it's like, Ben Shapiro owned them.
Yeah.
Used to say, saying something.
Yeah, that's all those videos on there.
It seems like a lot of times, a lot of the guys used to do stuff like that where they would, give sources and stuff. Nowadays, more, I don't know, not a lot. Not that they aren't relying on, statistics and accurate information. They don't really cite it as much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At least the stuff I watch, I guess.
Right. Which you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful that you're not only listening to one side of things. Mm-hmm. But so, I'll try to listen to left-wing talking points, and I'll listen to, not just watching videos like that are clipped like that. Oh, Ben Shapiro destroys a leftist. No, I want to see ones that say leftist destroys Ben Shapiro. So I'll watch ones like that
watch
too.
Them, but I'm like, well, where did they win?
Right?
Because they're intent on seeing it.
Well, they'll post the one, I don't know if you saw the one where the guy criticized Ben Shapiro's sex life or something. He's like, your wife won't even have sex with you because blah, 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 and something. And the whole crowd, ooh.
And then cut.
And that's the one they post, right? Oh, look at this leftist destroy Ben Shapiro. I'm like, he didn't even answer.
He threw a roast and they cut it.
So he insulted him. That's not winning the debate. That's not the way that works. Ben Shapiro proposed something to him. Mm-hmm. And he could have intelligently refuted it and said, no, let me show you statistically why you're wrong. Instead, he makes fun of him.
You see where they get emotional, and then they just start with the personal attacks.
Yes.
And then that's when they're like, well, okay, so this discussion is ultimately ended. It's now just throwing.
Well, that's why you know how to throw people off when you're in a discussion. I've gotten into discussions with people like atheists and stuff when I'm talking about Christianity, and they'll get to a point where they don't like what I'm saying, or they'll don't really have an attack. Or maybe I'm making them question things which they don't like, and they'll say, "Well, you're an idiot," and they'll just throw an insult at me, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. but what about what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm with you, man. I'm an idiot. But let's talk about like what I just said to you. Can you show how what I said was idiotic? Can you prove what I said was incorrect or false? Because that's what I want to talk about. We can talk about my personality all day. Yeah, I'm a jerk. I'm an idiot. I'm ugly. Whatever you want to call me. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Let's say I agree with you. All those things are true. But that's not what I want to talk about right now.
that famous Shapiro quote, like, facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, maybe I'm an idiot or I'm kind of dumb or something, but it doesn't change what I said.
Right.
You know, and if you don't like it, just go look it up yourself.
Right. Right. That's why I adopted many years ago. I will attack the message, not the messenger, because I would post quotes sometimes on Facebook or whatever that I thought was a good quote, and let's say it was by somebody that he did something stupid in his personal life, and then people started attacking it. I was like, no, I'm not posting this because I'm endorsing everything this person. I'm not talking about the person, but look at this quote. Like, do you have a problem with the quote?
Like, for instance, like Gandhi.
Yeah.
You have some pretty good quotes that make a lot of sense, and they're really good.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I don't support everything Gandhi.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, there's some good. So me and Jordan Dane went to the Reagan Library recently. There was one little exhibit where Ronald Reagan kept a lot of quotes of a lot of people, and you could obviously see certain people you don't think Reagan would agree with the person, but he would save their quotes and stuff in their cards, and he would use them.
Yeah.
Because like it was a good quote.
Yeah.
It made good sense. It was a good message that was given.
Right.
So I mean.
Yeah, the guy could be a total dirtball, but he said one cool thing in his whole life, and there it is. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But people don't usually want to. They want to talk about the person.
Yeah.
You know? So, all right. So last thing, man, what do you think 2024, who we got? Who do you think's going to win? At this point in time, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, in 2020, I didn't think Biden would win.
I didn't either.
And then
he did. Yeah.
However, he did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because of the Trump hatred.
Yeah.
I think is what it really boiled down to.
Definitely a big part of that. I mean, the never Trumpers is what they call them.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I know who you want to win, but like, who do you think is going to win?
I want to think that Trump, for now, so far, looks like he would win. I mean, because there's still a lot of stuff that's now coming out, like about her VP pick.
Yeah.
This is garbage. That's coming.
As always, right? They do that on both sides.
And then
they try to
you can see
that
they're trying to change on her official sites and stuff about the information about him because they're like, well, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
So I think we've got them kind of stepping back a little bit. So hopefully we keep that momentum, but I don't know how much that's going to go until Trump says something dumb.
Right.
Or he gets personal, because a lot of people are saying it's going to go good unless he starts doing personal attacks. Because all he has to do is stick to her policies and stuff. But as soon as he gets personal, everything gets heated. And she could obviously handle personal a lot better than he can.
Yeah.
And all the America needs to see is Trump raging on stage as like an angry toddler old man.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, like, we don't want him in office. And then it's going to swing a little bit. For all the people who are in the middle. Obviously, more conservatives were going to be like, no, we need him to win.
Right.
But the people who are in the middle.
And that's who each side needs, right? So I think you're right. Those debates are going to be crucial. Because if Trump is, like you said, the toddler old man, and he starts throwing your mama jokes at people when he starts getting offended, that's not going to look good for him. It didn't look good in his debate with Biden in 2020. It's not going to look good if he debates Kamala. He needs to let her bury herself because she will.
And when he went against Hillary had more of those moments where she would get personal. And he was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go off of that.
Right.
And it worked for him. But then the other time, Biden was just not capable of doing it. So when he would get personal, it's just kind of like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
Man, I had a thing. But, so if it gets personal, it's not going to be good, which is a way I thought DeSantis would have been good.
Well, totally. And it seems to be anyway that Trump must be taking some of that to heart, because the last couple appearances he's had, even his debate with who did he debate? Was it Biden? Yeah, he debated Biden.
This last one?
Yeah. And I thought that was much different Trump.
Yeah, everyone's saying
Trump.
that he's kind of learned to kind of stay away from the stuff that make him look bad.
Right. Except when they talked about golf.
Oh, then
that's where he kind of
old man heated.
Yeah, he got a little bit.
And then they both get muted.
Juvenile. Yeah. Your golf game's not as good as my golf. And
they both
it's like grumpy old men.
They both try to mockingly laugh at each other.
Yeah. So that was a little. I mean, it was funny. It was funny, but I'm not looking for comedy when I'm looking at the potentials of running our country. I don't need that. There's plenty of stand-up comedians I can listen to if I want to laugh. I don't want to be laughing when I'm looking at who's.
I think that's the thing. Entertainment and politics, the lines have been blurred so much.
Yeah.
Just in my lifetime, I've seen them.
Right.
Where it's kind of like, I don't want my entertainers to be political, and I don't want my political people trying to entertain me.
Right.
You know, one is one, the other is the other. Mm-hmm. You know, and yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into some spiritual stuff as our last little section here. We got about 40 minutes.
All right.
You got to be gone by a certain time, or one-ish?
Well, like I said, I'm big here about like 4 or so.
Oh, you have plenty of time then. So, well, I got till about 1-ish, 12:45, 1-ish. So we'll go from there. We'll see how far this takes us.
You want to go to get a hot dog together?
Yeah, you want to go? I'm gonna go.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I gotta text Bethany when we're done and see if they want anything. I'm not sure, but yeah, man, I'll take you. She'll trip out. What is? Yeah. Hey, we're hanging out. So kind of walk me through. Obviously, you're a Christian. Mm-hmm. I already know that about you. So just kind of, I like to go.
Man, if I said I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, then I'd have different questions for you. But like, kind of walk me through. Your parents have been Christians as long as you can remember. Is that
they've
true,
been Christians
or
like as long as I have?
As long as you have. So about how old were you when your parents became Christians?
Probably 9.
Oh,
9 is
okay.
Yeah.
So later in life,
we were Catholics.
Okay. Practicing or just kind of by?
We went every Sunday.
Okay.
We would, like, my parents would try to get me and Jacob to say our prayers before bed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say I remember most of them. Obviously, I remember the Our Father one.
Right.
Other than that, I kind of thought it was really dull, boring.
Okay.
Jacob was younger a bit, so he was allowed to bring little toys and play with in the pews. Mm-hmm. I wasn't.
No? You were supposed to be more mature. And
the best I got was I got to sit behind my mom and play with her hair a little bit. So there was that.
A little bitterness there, I can
he's
tell.
With his little Matchbox cars.
Nice.
On the pews, and he's all playing. I'm like, hey, can I play with one? He's like, no.
No, that's funny.
They're mine. Bring your own. I'm like, I can't bring my own cars. Mine's so much cooler, too.
That's awesome.
Or I would try to get him, hey, bring one of my toys, and I could play with them. And no, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
But then, we went through some stuff, what was it? So, like, around, I don't remember the year, but I was like 9 or so. And, like, we had this thing. My dad got a DUI and everything. A lot of stuff happened in that.
Yeah.
There was a coworker who was there for him and there for us. A coworker of my dad's at UPS.
Okay.
So he...
Dang, he's been there a long time then.
He opened his house to, like, my dad and us.
Okay.
And, like, we went through a lot of stuff. And he went to Calvary. And so...
This coworker?
That coworker.
Okay.
And he invited my dad, and then we, naturally went with my dad.
Okay.
And I remember I went, and I'm like, this is kind of weird. Because I went to kids' church originally. I wasn't used to that.
It was all fun stuff.
I was like, this is weird. Like, I thought I was supposed to stay in here. And the chairs were soft and comfy compared to wooden pews.
Yeah, that's right.
And at the time, I didn't understand worship, really.
Okay.
So it was kind of odd, because in in Catholic church,
yeah.
they'd have someone playing music, but it always sounded somber all the time. I don't know, as a kid, maybe my memory's distorted, but it's just really slow and somber, like it's almost like a funeral going on
right.
or something. I'm like, all right. We'd stand and hear it, They had songbooks, but I don't ever remember. We might have used them. But we get to Calvary and worship's going on, you got people putting their hands up and stuff.
Right.
And singing these songs that sound so upbeat and cool and everything.
Which was out of the ordinary.
I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I remember my mom, when we were younger, she used to try to make me and my brother sing in worship.
Okay.
Sing along. And I'm like, we
Yeah.
hated it so much. She's like, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
You need to be singing.
At least move your lips. I mean, at least pretend,
I would try. She's like, you're just moving your mouth. So I'm like, all right, Jacob, you're next to Mom. I'll be a space away.
Yeah.
And
you guys would fight over who had to sit next to Mom because she could call you out.
I would at least. I remember he memorized a lot of the worship songs at that time. He remembered a lot of them.
Interesting.
I was like, this is kind of... I don't know if that's kind of affected how I am now. I'm not very... hands up and...
Yeah, I'm not either, and I think it's a personality thing. I don't... I don't agree with people that say people shouldn't do that, nor do I agree with people that say that,
like you
must do that. I think it's if the Lord's leading you to do that.
And I've had moments, where, if I'm really like feeling, I don't want to make it all feelings, because I don't think worship's all feelings.
You're right, but there's an element there, right? For sure.
There's a feeling element to it. Where, I put my hand up or something,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm more of hands to my sides, or I don't.
Which means you're not saved, obviously.
Apparently. No, but I mean, there's in my pocket or something, and I'm just like, I'm really, I'm worshiping.
Sure. Well, because worship comes from the heart. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be a posture.
Yeah.
But there is an element to what you're saying that is true, right? Because I'm a people watcher. I probably shouldn't be during worship services because my focus should be on the Lord. A little bit, But you have to notice how when the song builds, and it gets getting, more hands go up. Now, if it's not feeling, why is that?
Yeah.
The words are the same, right? Mm-hmm. Most worship songs have the same words over and over and over and over. Yeah, but when you sing them more powerfully and the drums are coming in and the guitar's ramping up and you're singing the same words, now all of a sudden more hands go up.
Yeah. I'm like, is your heart changing or something?
Right. And the answer is probably not.
Yeah.
Although people might argue that and say, oh, you don't know.
So I definitely think there's a feeling aspect, but it's not like all feelings,
No.
Some people make it all about feelings.
Right. Like, it shouldn't be all about feelings.
It's not a concert,
Right.
It's like, oh, this song makes me feel something. No, it's not about you. Yeah. You're worshiping, Right. And of course, there's still the aspect of feeling. Yeah. It's just a circle, but,
Yeah. And I think it what you talked about growing up in the Catholic Church, I think that plays a big role, right? Because a lot of this stuff is learned, right? Like most of the younger people that I know that are very physical in their worship services with their hands up or whatever they're doing, they grew up in a family that does that, right? So you just kind of grow up thinking, well, this is just what we do. Mm-hmm. And I personally struggle with that kind of stuff because I'm like, if it was me, I would be questioning that in a sense of being like, well, is this really genuine from the heart, like God leading me to do this? Or am I just parroting what I've seen my whole life? Mm-hmm. And I struggle with that with my own kids because I'm like, part of me is like, I want them, obviously, I want them to worship the Lord with all their heart. I mean, I want them to be so invested in the Lord. But at the same time, I don't want them to be doing things simply because they think they're supposed to because that's what they're seeing. Yeah. Right? So it's always a struggle for me because I'm more like you. I'm more stoic. I think there's certain songs that I really feel like I'm really worshiping the Lord as I'm singing them.
Yes.
But I'm not
it really cuts to the heart.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But I'm not a physical posture guy. And, some might criticize that and say, oh, are you embarrassed? No, it's just not my thing. I'm also, when I go to concerts, I'm not the guy who's dancing around or whatever. I just like to listen to the music. I'm like, this is great. I might bob my head a little bit or something. But
the times that I genuinely have raised my hand or something in worship, not that that's the only thing you could do, I guess, but I didn't feel embarrassed by it. But then I know there have been times where I tried to just do it because other people do it, and I felt the most embarrassed doing it like that because I'm like,
this you feel like a phony, right?
Yeah, this isn't real.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And
okay,
but.
So somewhat growing up in the church, being 9 at the age.
And then I went to kids' church, and I remember thinking, this is kind of weird. Everyone's kind of very, I don't know, back to just perception of feely. Everyone kind of seemed kind of feely. I'm like, this is weird. Right. I don't know. Everyone's all super talkative and everything. I'm like, it's not how I was kind of brought up with all that.
Right.
And then I remember we were in one of the little classes, and I can't remember who was teaching or who was there, but they're like, oh, has everyone accepted Jesus into their heart?
Right. Typical Sunday school message.
And in my head, I'm like, are you supposed to do that?
Right.
And I'm like,
you're like, where's the scripture that says that?
Well, I mean, I wasn't like a Berean of the word at the time. I'd like to think I had a somewhat relationship with God. I guess I didn't really know him as much as I do now, obviously.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're supposed to do that, huh? Mm-hmm. We can say the little prayer, you can accept Jesus into your heart. And I remember I did it. And then I remember feeling like, this is kind of different, Right. This is more personal versus, we're Catholic.
And how old were you at that point?
I was 9.
Oh, it was towards the beginning of Calvary.
Yeah, that same year.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is weird. And I kind of felt like a compulsion. So I'm like, I got to do more with this. Mm-hmm. I got to Can't just, all right, accepted, that's it.
Yeah.
Go back to...
Game over.
Yeah.
I got my ticket to heaven.
Yeah. So I'm like... So I don't know. And then I felt more of a drive to want to learn more and go to more of church events and go to more studies and whatnot. And at some point we ended up leaving Calvary SM and we tried out Calvary Quad, and then I guess that one kind of split up a bit. Something happened out there. I don't know. I was too young.
Was that with Para was or Para?
I don't remember who the
Roy
adult
something
leaders were there.
I forgot the pastor's name. It was a different pastor before, and then he ended up leaving, and then there was a guy, I want to say from Calvary Santa Maria, that took over. I could be wrong about that, but I forgot his name. Anyway.
Something happened. I don't know. And then so some people left in one direction. My family followed them. Started a new church. It was called like God's Grace Christian Fellowship. Pastor Beto. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was the pastor of the church.
Okay.
We were there for like...
He's back at Calvary now, right? Yeah.
We were there for like 8 or 9 years or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But he started going through some health problems. So he had to kind of step back a bit, and he had to, focus on, his health a little bit more, and his family, his marriage, and everything. Not that anything was really going wrong with that.
No, but physical issues are going to cause...
Your first ministry is your family, your home.
That's true.
And I think him stepping back, it kind of left a lot of, room for people to be like, well, what do we do now? Who's in charge? And people trying to step into places, and then not a lot of people agreeing, and it kind of just it just kind of ended up like it kind of dissolving that body, that fellowship. Yeah. And so then we kind of left it, and we're trying other places again, and then we ended up going back to Calvary to try it out again, and then it'd been 8 or 9 years, and I was like 9 the last time I went, and I'm like, I have vague memories of the place. Like, this place is so familiar, but I don't really know anybody. And I saw Marley Jimenez. I'm like, I went to school with her for years and years, since kindergarten. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I know you. I know you were here when I was little. Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah, hey, what's up? We weren't really friends. Right. So I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. One person. And then I recognized the Gonzalez's a little bit, because I think on our way out, they were on their way in. Okay. And then, and I see Jaden, and I'm like, I recognize her. She had a big personality as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Like, huge smile.
Yeah. And I'm like, I know her. And then I'm just kind of like, she had a sister or something. Yeah. And then I'm like, maybe a couple sisters? I don't know. Yeah. And then you could put 2 and 2 together. You could find out who her sister is. I'm like, oh, there she is. And I see Thomas and Denise, and I just remember, the Asian guy and the white lady. And I'm like, and those are their kids. Right. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Right. And then, I wanted to try to be friends with them again, because I was familiar with them. Right. So I tried to be friends with them, and I tried to be friends with the Gonzalez's and stuff. Nice. Like, oh, this is cool, being friends with them. And then, obviously, after a while, I try to be friends more so with Jordan. Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's true. Yeah. 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 And the rest is history on that one, right? Yeah. The whole thing with that. Yeah. But while I was like 8 or 9, too, I got baptized at that time. I was baptized as a baby, as a Catholic. But when I was like 8 or 9, the church had a baptism at Paul Nelson Pool, and we were going, and it was doing baptisms. They're doing that. Anybody else want to be baptized or whatnot? I remember being a little kid. I'm like, I'm super embarrassed and nervous. I don't want to do this, but I was kind of feeling like, well, this seems like the logical next step in being a Christian. Come out and make the public declaration of So is this once you guys came back? No, this is still when I was like 8 or 9. 8 or 9. Okay, before you left. Okay. And so when I went and did that, and then and I kind of felt after that, I'm like, wow, like I don't know feelings, but like I feel like I really made that commitment. Like I'm all in, man. I'm not only saved, but I've made that public declaration. Right. So now I need to live according to that declaration, that promise. And so. So do you hold to that time being when you think you got saved for sure? Like when you prayed the prayer at 9 in the Sunday school, and then getting baptized, water baptized? I'm not saying, being baptized is a must to be saved. No, but it's like you said, it's the public declaration. Now the world knows that you're following Christ. Yeah, and I feel like that's always been in the back of my mind all through the years after that in school and whatnot. I'm like, I made that public declaration. I can't just slip back into whatever. And I've had moments in my life where I didn't make the best decisions. I went up. Really? Oh, that's Most Christians are just perfect from the moment they get saved. They never make any problems. Yeah. We never slip up. Just kidding. I never did. I didn't say anything. No, but you know, I always have that in my mind, like, you know, I promised God,
right?
You know,
right.
And so that really had an effect. And then all growing up, like I said, I always was drawn to go to more church events and Bible studies and everything, and go to church groups at school and stuff. And I remember growing up, I'd always trying to egg my dad to, let's go to study,
okay.
Let's go to men's study, let's go to the retreats, let's go to all this.
Oh, nice.
They're like, come on, we're going to be late for church. I was always the one, you know, to trying to push everyone, let's go.
Now, do you think that was because of like an inner push from the Lord, or do you feel like it was more of kind of that, like, well, I'm a Christian, I need to be doing these things more like I say human, but not in necessarily a bad way, but do you feel like it was more like...
I think it was more for...
Internal or more like...
More internal. Because, I mean, honestly, I didn't really have many people around me that, like, I could care what they thought or how they were seeing my walk or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like, I knew I needed this, I wanted this to be closer with God.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay.
How that's gone. So that's the story of my getting saved and all that, my background and all that.
All right. And you just felt like since then you've just been continually... ups and downs, obviously, of the Christian walk, but you feel like you're closer with the Lord now than you were when you were 9.
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Obviously. So you ended up going to Bible college
for
a short time. But that was because of COVID, right?
And I really wanted to go back, but then as time went on, I'm like, I'm working.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Life
not
happens.
as much, you know, it doesn't really, I don't know, I don't want to say it doesn't work anymore for me. But
right.
It's like...
Right.
Things change, life goes on, you know.
Well, did you have like any ambitions to be a pastor at some point, or did you just want to go?
I've never really sought out to be a pastor of anything, really. I've always been open, like, if the Lord wants to use me in that way, you know, then...
But what was your motivation for going to Bible school as opposed to...
I wanted to be closer with God and know more of His Word and be able to, I don't know, just know more to be able to apply it in my life better. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, eventually the goal is to get married and be a father.
Right.
If I become a father. But, like...
You got your own little church, you're a priesthood, right?
I need to know more so for myself.
Yeah.
Know more of God and be closer with God if I'm going to be, a good husband or father.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
And do you feel like your short time at Bible college helped achieve any of that for you, or...
It achieved some of it. And whatever, that I think I missed out on, it definitely put me started the momentum for me to continue. It's not like it just all stopped.
Right.
Once I came back, all right, that's it.
Yeah, you come back floating on a cloud, and you're just like, all right, this is...
it's still a continuous walk and everything.
Right.
I've been in a youth group so I started interning with Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
In like 2019.
Okay.
Because growing up, going through all these studies and stuff, I had really appreciated. So, because my parents, they didn't really grow up in the church and stuff. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of things they couldn't really help with or answer and stuff. But they're still learning themselves, So I would rely a lot on like youth leaders and like youth groups and stuff to like help me with my questions and stuff.
Right.
And so I kind of wanted to be that for other kids,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good ambition.
So I've been interning since 2019. I mean, I had the little break when I went to Bible college.
Right.
But apparently now I'm not an intern anymore. Dan's like, no, you're just a youth leader with us. Wow. And I'm like, oh.
You're like, hey, where's my paycheck?
I'm like, intern means not paid. But it was funny how it all came about because there was an email he sent. It's like, oh, I want to throw a little leadership dinner.
Yeah.
And he's like, no intern. He put in all caps and underlined, no interns.
Oh.
And I'm like, dang, did I get this email on accident? Yeah. Was I not supposed to? And I text him like, hey. Yeah. Was I supposed to get that email?
Right.
He's like, oh, yeah, totally. I'm like, oh, because you put no interns. He's like, you're not an intern. I'm like,
oh.
And in my head, I'm like, am I fired?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What'd I do?
Well, what am I? You're nothing. Get out of my office.
And he's like, no, man. He's like, you've been here longer than I have. You've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm really grateful for your help. And not to boost myself or anything like that,
No.
And I'm just like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm like, as long as I get to do what I was doing, I just want to help.
So when you look at the future, obviously you've talked already about wanting a family and wanting to get married and all that. Do you foresee you being a family man who has a full-time job and then just maybe does like youth work on the side kind of thing? Like you might be helping in youth group kind of thing, being a mentor.
As long as it's not a big strain on my family.
On your family. Family comes
on
first.
My marriage, my family.
That comes first. Yeah.
That comes first. If it doesn't cause a strain, I would like to do that.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm also open to like if something ever happens where God calls me to full-time ministry or something, and I mean, I guess I would have to see if when it comes up, like, is this really from God? You know.
Right.
Pray for that wisdom and discernment to know like if it's actually something I do or if it's just something I want to do.
Right. So okay. So this question I ask everybody only because I struggle with it, and you just brought it up. So when you pray about things, how do you know the answer when you're done? Like, how do you really know? Like, because people say this to me all the time. Christians say this to me all the time. Oh, I prayed about it, and that's just not the right thing for me to do. Or I prayed about it, and this is what the Lord wants me to do. And I'm like, okay, how do you know that?
So. I mean, it's not like I've heard an audible voice of God saying,
"Good,
this is that."
Good, because I'd be calling the padded room people for you.
So I've never heard the audible voice of God saying, "Don't do this, do this."
Yeah.
I pray about it, and I ask God to put it on my mind and my heart what I should do. And that doesn't mean I just sit there and wait, okay, God, any second now.
Right.
I'm going to be in the Word and looking through for answers for it. And, God will reveal his purpose, his intentions through His Word. And, and eventually, most of the time, it's like something I find and sticks, and I'm like, so this is what I should be applying to this situation. It's in the Word, and not trying to take stuff out of context. I'll obviously read the whole passage because I'm afraid of, oh man, this verse really works. No, the rest of the wrong. I'll read an entire passage to make sure that I'm not misinterpreting it.
Right.
Because a lot of times, you get people, they just take a snippet.
And for sure.
Oh, this fits. Like, well, the verse right before it said this.
Yeah.
The verse right after it says something totally different.
Right.
And there's not often things in the Bible that are that contrasting a verse after verse.
But it's always difficult, right? Because you're not going to find your name in there anywhere. It's not going to say, James, I want you to this, or I don't want you to do this.
Yeah. The Bible's not going to give a specific advice about a car.
Right.
But
or really about any specific decisions at all, really. I mean, if you think about it, it'll tell you like guidelines for living, but if like you have a specific decision, let's say go back to when you were going to go to Bible college, like, and then maybe, I don't know if you struggled with that decision or not, but let's say you are. Let's say I'm struggling with a decision to go to Bible college, and I'm like, okay, I kind of feel like the Lord wants me to go. I'm not sure, so I'm going to pray about it, and then I'm going to get into the Word. But I'm like, am I going to find anywhere in the Word that really answers that question?
So let's just use Bible college as an example. Okay. So you're not just going to stick on that very zoomed in scope of it's a Bible college question. You're going to want to break it down into all the other choices and decisions that are within that big decision and weigh them all together on Scripture. So, I don't know, like when it comes to, like, why are you going to Bible college? Does this line up with what you should be seeking? Is this what God's Word tells you to seek as a man of God? Are these the reasons why you're going to Bible college? What are you going to do in Bible college? Is this what is going to line up? So you just kind of, you weigh it out with what God puts in His Word, and then sometimes there'll be something you didn't notice before by you going to the Scripture that you found. You're like, oh my gosh, how did I,
Like it reveals your own motives to you, maybe? Like you're like, I am doing this for fleshy reasons, or...
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to Scripture, it'll help you a lot,
Okay.
But like I said, you're not going to flat out find something. James, you should not go to Bible college.
Right. Exactly. But so what you're saying then is it might reveal more of your own heart to yourself, and you might start to question your own motives.
And I feel like obviously God speaks through His Word.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm praying and asking for that wisdom, discernment, and I ask for God to speak to me through the Word, or even, I don't know, someone could say something, and maybe they're intentionally telling me something based on it or whatnot, or they just say something that happens to get me thinking about what I've been reading and praying about. I'm like, I make my decision or something,
Yeah.
I don't know if that really makes sense.
No, it does. I guess I'm such a, what's the word? I'm very like meticulous. And I know that's a fault when it comes to following the Lord, because a lot of it is not chiseled in stone. Like, because I'm the guy that always says, man, if I came to my countertop every morning and there was a note from God every day, all right, Ryan, here's your day laid out for you. Every minute, every hour, every whatever, I want you to do these exact things. I would have no problem in the world doing it to a T. You're like, all right, perfect. But the idea of Christianity where it's like, just follow the Lord where he's going to lead you different places and you need to follow his lead. That seems so kind of up here in a cloud that I'm like, well, I don't always know what that means. I don't want to go the wrong direction. I have all these decisions in front of me and I don't know the right answer, you know?
I think for a Christian, what's important to know the right answer and to know God's way. You got to know God and you got to know his word.
True.
So you got to know the things that are of God. You
know,
and it helps you to be able to discern which.
Well, there's obvious things, right? Like, Lord, should I murder my family? Obviously, Scripture is very clear. No, right? Or should I go to the strip club? Obviously not, right? Yeah. There's obvious things, but like things like, should I move my family to Tennessee? This was a big decision for us a few years back that we were really praying about, struggling. I mean, we were literally in Tennessee with a realtor looking at properties. That's how close we were. And to this day, I don't know if it was the right decision not to go. It's still on the table because I don't know. But what am I looking for, right?
What are you looking for?
We went over there. What ended up happening is we went to Orlando in July. This is after we had already been talking with the realtor. We're already potentially going to maybe start looking at putting an offer on and stuff, right? We're there, just about. So then Bethany has this conference in Orlando that I just went with her. The kids stayed here. In July in Orlando, okay? It was gnarly, nasty, humidity, hot, and heat has always been an anxiety trigger for me. So I ended up having, I ended up having some of the worst anxiety, panic attacks I've had in years up to that point. Like it was debilitating. Like I was literally in a store and I couldn't leave the store. I was just totally struck bad, right? And it was scary, you know? And I know it's anxiety. I know there's not anything actually physically happening to me, but when you're in that, it's real, right? It's a reality.
I get anxiety.
So you understand.
Yeah.
So after that experience, we're flying back, and Bethany says, I don't know if we should move to Tennessee because this is what the summers are going to be like in Tennessee. Are you going to be able to live in that heat for 4 months out of the year and humidity with your anxiety issues, right? And she brings up a good point, right? That's a big change in weather, right?
Yeah.
But then, in hindsight, I look back and I think, yeah, but what's anxiety based on? Fear, right? All this stuff. Is that the way the Lord works? Was he having that experience happen so that we wouldn't move to Tennessee? Was that his way of showing us not to move? Or was that the devil trying to prevent us from moving to Tennessee when that's what God wanted?
Yeah.
To this day, I have no idea what the answer to that question is.
Well, you got to look at too. Like, were there doors being opened to go to Tennessee?
Well, in what way? I mean, the market here, pretty much anybody in California that owns a home, at that time anyway, I know the prices are getting a little higher in Tennessee, but you could sell your house and buy one almost outright in another state, right? So some Christians might say, well, there's an open door. Or say, well, could I apply for a job and get a job at a library in Tennessee? Yeah. Is that an open door? Right? But like in any of those cases, I'm pursuing that. I'm putting in an application at a library in Tennessee, right? So I'm already kind of making the decision. So that's the philosophy of, well, I'm going to pray. I'm going to go the direction I think I'm supposed to go and ask the Lord to close the door in my face if it's not the right way. Right? That's one philosophy. Then there's other people that have the philosophy of, I'm not going anywhere until the Lord makes the door very obviously open. Like I'm not even looking to move to Tennessee and he just puts something in my lap. Somebody calls me. Hey, Ryan, I a friend of mine used to live in California, now lives in Tennessee. Hey, I got this job opportunity for you. If you guys ever wanted to move to Tennessee, this job pays 3 times what you're making in California. We'd love to have you come out and take this job. Right? So that's me not doing anything to look for it. We're not even looking to move to Tennessee. Somebody calls me. So that's kind of like an open door that I didn't try to open. It just opened in front of me. Right? So it's kind of the same but different.
That's when I would probably just start weighing things like,
okay,
all right, so say you get the call
and
they offer the job. You start thinking, all right, now what's motivating us to go? All right, then, I don't know, you just use more logic, I guess, to compare it all. And then once you're starting to make those moves, I guess, you pray that God would shut the door if it's not good, you know?
Yeah.
Because I guess that's all we really can do.
It is, see, and that's what I come down to. That is all, and if he does, then that's scary, right? Because you don't know if that's the Lord. You assume, but who knows? Maybe you're losing your mind.
That's also too where you would also use discernment and use what the Word says about when the Lord speaks to people.
Right. Right.
And yes, I mean, Isn't there lots of people who get very spiritual about a lot of stuff? And
well, it almost gets too mystical.
Yeah.
And that's what I never understand. Like when people, like, example I always use, we do a Bible study online, Zoom study that with guys from all over the country, right? On Tuesday nights. Yeah. In fact, if you ever want to join, let me know. But some of the guys, Calvary go, Mario goes now, and some other guys you might know. But anyway, there was one guy that was doing it, and then he stopped. And I was like, hey, we miss you, man. Where you been? What's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm just praying about it right now. I don't know if the Lord wants me to continue going to the study. And I said, oh, okay. A couple more weeks go by, and I reached out to him again. I said, hey, I'm just wondering if you're ever planning to come back. We miss you, the study. You have a lot to offer. You're a good part of the study. And and he's like, I prayed about it, and the Lord doesn't want me to go to the study anymore. And I'm like,
interesting.
Okay, but like,
is there something else in place of it?
No.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Lord is saying that. I don't think the Lord would say, stop going to that church, and then don't go anywhere else.
Well, but the question to him would be like, well, how are you so confident of that?
And if there's anything that's causing him to question if he should go, what are those things? Read those with Scripture. Compared to what the Word says.
Right.
If it's something that's contradictory to what the Word of God says, then I guess, But then again, he could also bring it to you and talk about it,
Yes. Right.
Versus, I'm going. Yeah. There's a problem. I'm just going to leave everyone else to have that problem.
But you're saying it would be different if, like, let's say he had another study he was invited to on a Tuesday night.
I mean, like, I don't know. It's like you're feeling like, it'd be more beneficial for your walk, and you pray and ask God, like, is this beneficial for me in my walk or my family, if I go to this, and, all things are pointing towards, like, this is good, and you are comparing everything, to Scripture and whatnot. Right. Then, you go for it. But if you're just leaving study and that's it, there's no replacement for it, and you're just going to be left high and dry. Right. I don't know if God's going to call you to do that.
To back away from the study of His Word.
Yeah.
To do nothing else instead.
Yeah, where, like, some people are like, I don't really care for the way this pastor teaches, so I don't know if I'm going to go to that church anymore. And they stop going to church. I'm like,
altogether.
Well, yeah, I'm like, I really don't think that was the decision that you should have made.
Well, then I wonder if there's something else going on.
Yeah, then there could have been something more self-serving that motives behind that. Why you weren't going to go there anymore?
Yeah, like I like to sleep in on Sundays or something.
Yeah, like. Yeah, I don't know. And in your head, you're like, it's just so early. I don't want to go. Yeah. So I don't know if this thing is really for me. I've been really praying on it. So I don't think this is a church for me. I think God's kind of putting it on my heart. And then come to realize they're just sleeping in on Sundays.
Well, it's your flesh, right? Yeah. And that I guess that's what I mean when I ask that question is, for me, it's hard to get my flesh completely out of the way. Yeah. Because I've noticed that a lot of times when people pray about stuff, weirdly, it just seems to kind of go in the direction, the Lord seems to go in the direction that they were hoping to.
A lot of times people, when they say, I'm praying on it, or I'll pray on it, they're like, I'm going to think on it. Right. I'm going to contemplate it to myself.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons of what I like and what I want. Yeah. And not necessarily backing it up with Scripture or whatnot, Right. And, I don't necessarily agree when people use the phrase, I'll pray on it, as interchangeable with, I'll think about it. Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite one is, though, I'm believing God for it.
What?
You ever heard anybody say that?
No.
Well, I'm believing God for it. You're believing God for what? Like, it's usually like, well, this is what I want. This is what I prayed about. And I'm just believing God for it. Like, they're trusting that God's going to do what they asked, kind of a thing. Yeah, and they think that by doing so, that's going to make God do what they asked.
That's more like a name it and claim it.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, very similar. No. So you're not a big fan of that, I guess, huh?
No.
Yeah. Again, must not be saved, man.
You must align your hearts with... I think one must align their hearts with the things of God and what His Word says. And those kinds of desires will come natural. Yeah. And those kinds of things... Well, I mean, obviously not naturally human nature. Right. We're all fallen and wicked. Right. But, you start aligning yourself with what God calls us to be.
Yeah. All right, man, we're going to end on me kind of playing devil's advocate. And I do this to most Christians I have on the show just because I want to curious about your responses. Like, first of all, have you had like any crisis of faith where you kind of felt... maybe this wasn't the right belief system and you had to look into things a little further, or have you just, since 9, you've been kind of like, no, this is definitely it?
Just coming from that Catholic background, there was no question in my mind, God is real. Okay. And
that's your
Jesus
whole life.
is real.
Right. You've had no doubts at all your whole life that there is a God.
And the more I've gone through life, the more I've come to kind of just realize there's no doubt he's real.
Right.
But there are times where I just felt like, I don't know, I wasn't like in a crisis of faith. I was in a crisis of, like, I don't know, like, can I prove it? Like I still believe it, but I'm like,
can you back it up?
Can I back it up? I'm like,
right.
is this just something I'm just going to have to live with not being able to back up at all? You know? And
right.
just look like a dummy?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know.
Because of the critics.
Yeah. So I've never personally, I guess, struggled with, is God real? But then I'm more like.
But have you looked into things like tobacco? Like, so that's just where I play the devil's advocate, and I come to you and say I'm an atheist. And I say, all right, James, I think your religion is bogus. I think, you know, you Christians are a bunch of hypocrites, and your belief is based on nothing but fantasy, and you just want this to be true. That's the only reason you believe it. There's no evidence to back up the existence of God or of Christianity being right.
Well, then you just fall back on actual historical accounts that say Jesus was a real person, you know. All religions acknowledge Jesus and say that he was a good, well, I mean, aside from Satanism, but they all say that he was a good person, good teacher.
Right.
So there's that. He was a historical figure, real.
Right.
And when it comes to, like, all the sciences and everything, I'm just like, it just comes down boil it all the way down to nothing can't come from nothing. Something can't come from nothing. There has to have been something there, you know.
Well, and something intelligent, right? That's the intelligent design.
Yeah.
So let's say we're past the until. Say I agree with you on intelligent design, but let's say I say it was a light source, or it was space aliens, or it was something else
then
created
I'd be
us.
like, well, then just keep going. I'm like, okay, who created the aliens?
Right.
Not that I believe in aliens, really.
Well, but what if aliens could be the supreme being that you in Christianity would call God, right? It's I'm not saying necessarily green people from another planet, but like an otherworldly, something outside of our time existence, our solar system or whatever, our universe basically, that is the end all, right? Because for Christians they would say, well, yeah, everything was created by something until you get back to God. And God is the all-existent, never been in existence. He always has been. Nobody created him. He's the end. Everything created comes after him, right? But what if I was just like, well, yeah, that's some other supreme being. It's not God. It's not Jesus. It's just some intelligent thing that we're not going to call God. We're just going to call it, you know, energy.
Well, then I would say what points to that? You know, I just kind of, I guess, turn it more.
You put the burden of proof on me?
Yeah, well, like, what's saying that it's not, you know, my idea, quote unquote, of God,
right?
You know? Because if you're going to go to acknowledging that, you know, there is an intelligent creator, why wouldn't it be God,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
And it seems like the commonality in all the religions, I'm not saying I agree with those religions, you know, you know, God's character is evident in history itself, you know. I'm losing my.
But someone from an atheistic standpoint or a humanistic standpoint would hear what you just said, and they would say, "Yeah, look at history, death, destruction, hatred, all this stuff, right? So where's your God? Where's your God now?"
Well, the Bible explains a lot of that, or all of it actually. Well, can't even say everything. You know, there isn't specific, like we established.
Right.
I'm going to talk about Hitler in the Bible.
Right. Some say it does in the Bible
does
code.
Talk about those who persecute the Jews.
Right.
You know, just yesterday actually at work, I had a coworker. So he says he's Jehovah's Witness. He doesn't really go. He doesn't read any of their required materials or anything.
He's just
maybe
his parents were, and he just
his friends or something.
Oh, okay.
He's had family, but he's like, there's something about them. There's like a light about them, man. But then just yesterday, he's telling me something about karma. He believes in karma.
Okay.
I'm like, what? I'm like,
not exactly part of the Jehovah's Witness belief system.
I'm like, that's not that, man. What is it, like Hindu or something?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was asking him, like, isn't that like Hindu or something? He's like, what? No. I'm like, yeah, dude. I'm like, no, that doesn't agree with any of that.
He thought that was part of Jehovah's Witness belief?
He doesn't know what he believes.
Okay. He just kind of puts the label on himself, Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like trying to tell me about, yeah, man, you're wicked and evil, and you put some evil out there. Evil's going to be done to you. I'm like, it's not what the Bible says. Doesn't even say that in your Bible.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not at all how God has explained, how things work, or the Bible explains it. It's like, all right, then tell me, why is there so much evil and wickedness if it's not?
Right.
And I told him, well, if a little girl gets hit by a car and she dies, you think it's because she did something wrong? Mm-hmm. Like she's just getting back what she put out?
Right, like it's revenge.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, so what do you think it was? You think it was probably the driver was a little reckless or careless or negligent? He's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, all right. And then probably it all stems back to a certain thing, right? You know, it's a branch of outcomes and reasons. I'm like, the world is fallen, and it's in a fallen place. We do selfish things. And because of that, so much wrong and harm happens because of it. Because we all are inclined to be selfish.
Right. But why doesn't God prevent it from happening? Because he's powerful enough to do so, right?
And then I go back to telling him, it's because God gives us the freedom and choice to do as, we want to choose either him or ourselves, really. So God's not going to force us to be a bunch of robots to choose him and love him, the Calvinists.
Yeah.
I have a friend at work who's a Calvinist. Even my buddy is a Calvinist. somewhat.
Yeah.
And it gets boil it all the way down to the question all the time with him, so then who makes us sin?
Right.
I'm like, God is an all-powerful God. Mm-hmm. You're saying that he doesn't give us free will. He's mapped it all out. Who makes us sin? He's like, well, the devil makes us sin. I'm like, but I thought God was all-powerful.
Right. Right.
So we don't get the choice, but Satan gets the choice.
Well, I don't know where your friend stands, but I have a very close friend who's also a Calvinist, and he would say that the Calvinist belief is not that man has no free will. Mm-hmm. He would say man has no free will when it comes to salvation. So he would say, yes, man has free will if he decides to go shoot up a shopping mall. God gives him the free will to do so. Obviously, God doesn't want him to do that, nor is God determining him to do that or forcing him to do that. Mm-hmm. But he has the free will to do so. But he does not have the free will to choose God and escape eternal damnation. That's where he stands.
Then I'm just kind of I ask him things too. I'm like, well, so you're telling me that even if you genuinely don't want God, and if you're one of his elect or something, you have no choice, you're saved. Yeah. But then someone who is actively seeking up, but they're not one of the elect, I'm like, what happens with that?
Right. Well, he would say, and I see me and my friend go back and forth all the time. He would say that if you're actively seeking him, you are one of the chosen. It's impossible for you, because if you're not one of the chosen, you have no desire for God. You have no interest in being involved with God in any way, right? So that's the proof that you're chosen. So if you're a Christian today, it's proof that you're one of the chosen, because there's always that thing. Well, what about people that are Christians but they're wondering if Calvinism's true? Maybe I'm not elect. Maybe I'm not chosen. It's like no, if you're saved, you're chosen, right?
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, what if those who've never heard of God?
Yeah.
So God just would damn them. There's that question where I'm like, I feel like, so what do you think about those who've never heard, who die without hearing?
Well, I think Romans 1 is pretty clear that everybody's heard. So I think in some way, shape, or form. They might not have some Western missionary from America come over.
I thought I'd remembered a scripture like that. I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, I think it's in Romans 1. It talks about, everybody
will have an opportunity.
Yeah. Because to me, salvation is more of a heart response than it is a mental decision. I think your mental faculties are obviously part of it.
Oh, yeah, because you could say something and not...
Correct. And that's why there's plenty of people that profess Christianity that I personally don't think are actually saved. They're just churchgoers. They're just whatever. They're Americans, so therefore they're Christian. But like you said earlier about Johnny Cash and fruit, is like, is there fruit? Is the Lord working in your life? That's the evidence of salvation, like 1 John talks about. It's not a matter of necessarily what you profess with the mouth, although that's important. But you can profess something with the mouth and have it not really be true in your heart, right?
I just come down to the point of telling my Calvinist or Calvinist-leaning friends, I'm like, I think that when it comes to free will, it's one of those things that we cannot fully understand being on this side of heaven. Kind of like with the Trinity. We can't really fully comprehend it, and I don't think we ever will this side of heaven.
Even though there's all those analogies. Well, there's an egg, and it's got a yolk, a shell, and a white. I'm like,
we're trying to use physical things to describe something that's not even of this world.
Right.
You can't. It's like
trying to grasp God who is ungraspable.
Trying to describe color to someone who's been blind their entire life.
Exactly.
You can't.
Or even better, think of a color that doesn't exist.
You can't.
You can't.
Exactly.
Every color you come up with is going to be some mixture of the colors you already have, right? Or try to write a song that doesn't involve the musical scale. Like invent new notes. You can't. You can create every genre of music, and 30 years from now, there's going to be new genres of music that come out that we can't even fathom right now.
Yeah.
But they're all going to be in that scale. They have to be, because that's what God created. Like, we can create only within what he's given us to create with.
Yeah.
Right? We can't come up with new stuff. You know? It's just yeah. So it's that kind of stuff is fascinating.
So I kind of like, I don't know if there's a good way to explain it, but I'm kind of like that middle, like, I believe God can be all powerful and, and all, he's in control of everything.
Right.
But at the same time, still give us that degree of free will that, know, we can choose him.
Right.
Because if it's not our choice, I don't know if it's really just, you know?
Right.
And so I'm like, I believe that God is all powerful and able to make it so that it can be both.
Yes.
Yeah,
because he's going to allow what he allows and not allow what he doesn't allow for his own purposes. Yeah. And we don't know what those are most of the time, right? Like you hear, keep going back to the school shooter. School shooter goes in and kills 30 preschoolers. Horrific.
Yeah.
Right? And you and I both know God is completely powerful enough to have prevented that. Why didn't he? We don't know. We don't know. And then there's other instances where a guy's planning to go in and shoot 30 kids and somebody takes him out before that. Or he gets... some car smashes into him and he dies on the way to the school, and they find all this stuff in his bag and all this note about how he's going to go to this school and kill all these people. Why did God prevent him and not the other guy? We don't know. We don't have to know. Yeah. That's not necessarily...
And when it comes down to the salvation, like, there was a guy and a girl, I don't remember what the occasion or scenario was, but they were asking me about, do serial killers and rapists, can they go to heaven? I'm like, well, if they're genuinely repentant and they accept the Lord,
right,
as their savior, then yes. And they're like, God would allow that horrible person, blah, 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 and they should be damned to hell forever. I'm like, well, you're no better than them.
Right.
I'm like, because I know that in my heart, I have, been a horrible person and a wicked person. In my own mind, I've been a horrible, wicked person. Right. I don't deserve to go to heaven at all.
Right.
And yet, I get to choose to go to heaven. They're like, well, what if they lived a horrible life and on their deathbed?
Yeah.
They decide, all right, God, I yield.
Yeah.
Let me go to heaven.
Right.
I'm like, well, you can't just, half-heartedly, say it, then you got to go to heaven. Like, it has to be a genuine...
It has to be a heart response. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, God's not going to allow someone who's unrepented and they're going in as an evil person who hasn't accepted him as a rapist or a killer. Or
right. There's not going to be any rapists or murderers in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. These are people that are reformed and changed.
Like, I fooled him. I got in, guys.
Yeah, right. It's like these are people that may have committed horrific acts at some point in their life.
And they've more than likely, I don't know what their scenario would be, but they more than likely have paid the dues for that crime they've done here, because there are consequences for our actions here,
Yes.
Even if I'm like, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I think Pastor Connor.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. He talked about that.
He did all those horrific things.
Yes.
He accepted Jesus in prison, but he was in prison due to his actions, and he ended up getting killed by someone. He was in that scenario because of his actions.
Yeah.
He did not live life consequence free.
Right.
But if he genuinely accepted the Lord, I believe he's in heaven.
Right.
And
as Connor was talking about, there's a lot of Christians that are not happy about that. Yeah. They're like, I don't want to even be there if he's there. Yeah. That's terrible. It's but like, dude, where's your forgiveness? The Lord forgave you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I never did anything that bad.
Well, compared to Jesus, you did.
Right, exactly.
Jesus is perfect. You were far from perfect. So
right.
Jesus could have easily said, you're just a disgusting, horrible person. I don't want
And he'd be right.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't want you to be up there with me.
Right.
But instead he's like, yeah, you are a disgusting, horrible person, but I love you, and I want to extend this gift to you.
Right.
And, and that's where I believe we have the opportunity to accept it.
Right.
And if we don't want to accept it, I guess there you go.
Sucks for you.
Yeah. Get what you want. So.
All right, man. Cool. That's it. You made it. That was almost 4 hours, dude. It's impressive. All right, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for doing this. Fun stuff.
Thanks again for checking out this podcast, and please tell all of your friends about it. Don't let those shadow-banning savages win the battle. Also, I would love to hear your feedback. You can contact me at whycan'twetalkaboutThat at proton.me. Make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever new episodes are released. Thanks.